Hello, so this is a very different video from what I usually make, but I do create a lot of content every single day, and I think the count is somewhere around 14, sometimes more videos every single day, and I'm counting a video as a separate final exported video file that ends up either on YouTube or on TikTok. And so it's going to be some reuse of content. Some is content exclusive to YouTube. I don't have any content that's exclusive to TikTok, unless I make like a quick one-off video with my phone. But in general, everything goes on YouTube, and then most of it goes on TikTok with some exceptions. And what I'm going to be showing you here is as much as I possibly can about my setup and what I've learned. And yeah, so the first thing I want to go over is my hardware. So I'm going to switch the camera over to my phone that I've set up over my shoulder so that you can hopefully see that. And what I've also, you can see I've got this clock here. So when I'm going to switch between as much as I can, like while I'm recording, I'm not going to be showing what I recorded. That's just kind of the final video. So while I'm recording, we're going to be seeing the camera up there, and I'm going to be switching between them as is relevant. But you'll get screen recordings, you'll get what you're seeing from my camera here, and you'll be getting what from the second camera there as appropriate. And I'm going to try to edit that as best as I can, and you'll see what my editing process is, although I'm not going to document editing this video. I think that's too meta. Anyway, the clock here is so that you can see how much time things are taking me. All right, so hardware. Yeah, so back a little over a year ago, last year's July, 2023, I spent a good amount of money on massive upgrades to my setup. So this is not a setup you need to do at all. I started with much more minimal setup, but this is what I have right now, and I'm really enjoying it. The first thing I want to talk about is lighting. I can't really show off a lot of the lighting. One thing I can show is I can turn this off. It's very, very subtle. So what I do, the reason I can't show you some of the other lighting is because it's actually controlled by my phone. But I have 4 LED lights in the ceiling, which I'll try to remember to include a picture of that. I've got a ceiling fan, I've got 4 LED lights around it, and those LED lights I can control the color. So normally when I'm in this room, like while I'm editing, basically when I'm not recording, it's a nice like darker orangish color. But then while I record, I set it to the maximum intensity, maximum white that I can. And so this is just those 4 LED lights that you're seeing now. The ceiling fan actually also comes with a nice white LED light, which actually it switches between orange. You can kind of see a little bit of an orangish hue there. And then this is more orange. And then this is its white setting. And I find that just adds a little bit more to the fill. And then, of course, you can see that I have this light up here. Hopefully you can see that. If not, I'll include a picture. And this is for my face. And so once the camera adjusts, there we go. So you can see that that's a bright white LED in my face. It actually does have controls to make it oranger and stuff, but I think using a pure white palette for recording just ends up working best. That way you're not dealing with the white balance changing on the camera. Okay, so that's the lighting, and lighting is very important. The more light you can give to your camera, the better it's going to look. So if you're having issues like, I got a nice camera, or even just your phone's camera, things like that, and it just doesn't look that good, how much light is in your room? I personally don't like having sunlight because it's so variable. So I actually have blackout curtains over my window if I'm recording during the day, but a lot of my recordings actually happen at night. And this is at night right now. You can see it's just turned 9 o'clock. So my computer clock, though, my computer thinks it's 4 a.m. because what I do is, I like to record around this time. Usually I'll start a little bit earlier, like 8 o'clock, basically right when the Sudoku comes out. That's a nice trigger for me to just start working on the puzzles. And I just set my time zone to the UK. And so my computer thinks it's UK time. And then hopefully I remember to set it back before I start uploading videos and scheduling them. So anyway, so that's the lighting. And I will include Amazon affiliate links to all of the products I mentioned. Maybe I'll make a couple bucks. I don't know. I'm not expecting anyone to buy this stuff, but I know that the links can be helpful if you're interested. And there's no reason not to use affiliate links. Basically, it doesn't cost any more to you, and I make a little bit of money from that. So full disclosure there, they will be affiliate links. And hopefully that's not offensive to you. I do try to monetize my content in ethical ways as much as I can. Okay, so next is the camera. This is a Sony Alpha something something. Again, in the description, there'll be the exact link to the camera. What I like about this camera is it's a mirrorless DSLR. Well, it's not a DSLR. It's a mirrorless digital camera. It's got this is really important to me. This view screen that flips around so that I can make sure that like I'm not above it, I'm not too low, I'm not crouching too much, I'm centered. And then also I can tap the screen on myself and it will track me and keep me focused. Otherwise, it does like to sometimes just focus on my background instead. When if I can just look up, notice that, and I can just tap myself and it'll be focused on me again. I also have it connected via HDMI to a capture card in my computer. A lot of people use, and I think this is perfectly fine, a lot of people use a USB capture card that just basically converts the HDMI to USB. I actually have an actual capture card that I installed into my computer, which has HDMI input. It actually has 2 HDMI inputs. I only use one of them. But again, I'll include the links to all that and all the details. I'm working off the top of my head. I don't have notes for some reason. But yeah, I mean, the actual product is not super important. The important bit is HDMI capture card in my computer that is then connected via HDMI to my camera. Additionally, instead of a battery in the camera, this might be impossible to see from any of the cameras I've got right now, but I bought it's basically a fake battery pack. It goes in where the battery pack would, but it's got a cable coming out of it, and then you can plug that into permanent power. So it never runs out of battery, which is very nice. And so what this means is I don't actually have to use the recording functionality or the battery of the camera itself. I just have to use the HDMI cable, which gives me really nice high quality video captured straight in OBS, which you can hopefully see on my screen over here. And also, yeah, maybe it's plugged in so it never runs out of power. And then additionally, the lens in the front is replaceable. The lens it comes with is a pretty nice like zoom lens, focus lens. You can change the zoom level. And I used that for a little bit. And the zoom level I liked was like really annoying to get to. And every time you turn the camera off, which I do turn it off if I'm not recording, of course, every time I would turn that off, it would reset back to the default zoom. And so I hated dealing with that. So what I did is I figured out what zoom level I liked and what the equivalent fixed zoom lens would be. And I bought that lens, and now that lens just sits there and it's got the perfect angle that I like, that I'm able to crop properly to just show the bookshelf behind me. The lens I have is actually a fairly cheap one I bought on eBay. I don't think you need a very expensive lens, but I don't know, depends on your setup. The most important thing is just feeding enough light to the camera, as I said. The camera is mounted on this. I have this stick. This is another thing that I got all this stuff on Amazon. It's sort of bolted to my desk. It's the stick that comes up and it has 3 different arms. It comes with 3 arms, including a mic arm. The mic arm did not work for my mic. My mic was too heavy for it. I had so many issues with it. So I ended up replacing that, but I am still using the camera mount and the light mount that are connected to that. And so what's nice is you can adjust the height of both of them. And then also they have swivel arms so you can get it where you need it. Right now I have the camera set up basically exactly in front of me. It's a little bit to the side because my monitor actually has, it's got its mount there. And so the camera doesn't work there. And I want the camera as, at this distance from me. So this is the compromise I came up with. So yeah, that's the camera and how it's mounted. We've got the light, it's mounted. This mic arm is amazing. I really like this Rode mic arm. It was expensive, but honestly, it was worth every penny because the other mic arms that I tried were having so many issues. And this mic arm is super nice because it's extremely adjustable. I basically just have to grab the mic and I can just move it around in 3D space exactly where I need it. Here, let me just show you. And it just stays there. Right. So sometimes I'll adjust other things, but I basically just need to get it near my mouth and point it at my mouth and then we're good. The closer you can be to your mic without eating it, that's better. Like I like to be like within this sort of finger span with the mic. You notice a huge audio quality drop off if you get even a little bit far away from this mic. So just having it in your mouth almost is good, but then you need to make sure your volume settings are good so you're not clipping in your recording. So let's talk about the mic then. This is a Shure SM7B, very, very, very popular mic. It's got a very kind of nice warm sound to it. I see it all the time in videos, podcasts, etc. Like, this is a very recognizable mic. The mic that I have is not the newest one. They have kind of a new one that has a built-in booster, like decibel booster. I forget exactly what the term is, but this one doesn't have it. So this actually does connect via the I forget what this audio connector is called, but it connects via this professional audio connector here. And what's really cool about this mic arm is it kind of hides the wire. It plugs in here, and then it traces all the way down the mic arm. And then that connects to my cloud lifter. The cloud lifter adds 20 decibels to the signal. If you don't use that, you're going to be way too quiet. You're basically not going to capture anything. So you do need the cloud lifter, or you need the version of this mic that comes with that built in. Now, when you use the cloud lifter, you do need to activate the phantom power is what it's called. So there's a setting on your basically your DAC that I think that's what it's called, that will send phantom power back through the signal, and that's what powers the cloud lifter. Without that, it's not going to work right. So this is my Scarlett, Focusrite Scarlett. Basically this connects up to the Scarlett, and then the Scarlett connects to my computer via USB, and it handles essentially converting the analog signal to the digital signal when connecting to my computer. And then also I do have these headphones, the DT770 studio headphones. They're an 80 ohm headphone, and these are only going to work if you connect them to something like this Scarlett. Because they have 80 ohms of resistance. It's not the most resistance you can get, but it's much higher than your typical headphones, and that's going to really improve the audio quality, but they need to be driven very powerfully by a powerful DAC. So I have that plugged in directly to the Scarlett, and what that lets me do is I have direct monitor on, so if I'm wearing my headphones, I can in real time hear what I'm saying through the mic, which keeps me from like raising my voice accidentally. I actually use the same setup for Zoom calls and stuff. So I just have my headphones on and I'm able to hear myself through the mic, and it's very natural. And you can adjust the volume so it's natural to you. And that also lets you monitor and make sure that you're coming through. And then also the Scarlett will show up on my computer as both a microphone device and a speaker device, and I just select those as my default. So my default mic is the Scarlett, and my default speakers is the Scarlett, and so then the audio will come out through my headphones, just as you would normally have audio come out of your computer through headphones. Okay, and that sounds really, really nice. I don't know if you want, I want really, really clear headphones when I'm editing, so that I am editing based on the clearest signal possible, because the more sort of ground truth signal you have in your video, then that's going to sound the most natural to people using whatever weird setup they're using. Like if they're watching through their phone, or they're watching on their computer, or they also have studio headphones, or they have weird headphones that add bass, or whatever it is, or their speakers. That pure signal is then gonna sound most natural to them. If I were to use a headphone setup that that sort of messed with the signal while I was listening to it, I'd make it sound good to me, and then it might sound weird on other systems. That's sort of my philosophy. So I think sound quality is probably one of the most important things, and so that's why I focused on that a lot, and I spent a lot of money on the mic. It's not a cheap mic. So other than that, you can see I do have a dual monitor setup. This monitor is what I play all the games on, and then this secondary monitor, you can see I have it vertical. I use, and some of this is going to be very specific to Windows 11, right? But I use a software that Microsoft developed called Power Toys. I highly recommend it. It's got a lot of really nice stuff to it that really should just be built into Windows. But one of the things it does is it lets me configure zones. And so I have 3 vertical zones on this monitor. And if I hold shift while I move the window around, you can see that I can snap it to zones here, and hopefully that's visible through the camera. But you can see that I can stack 3 horizontal windows on top of each other. And so I can have like OBS here running, which is what I used to. I'll go over the software after I go over the recording process, except for OBS. I'll go over OBS now. But okay, hopefully that makes sense. And then I can have other things here, like if I have notes, like a spreadsheet or something that I'm working off of, I can put Discord there, like especially if I'm needing to monitor Discord while I'm recording and stuff, I can have that there. Right now I kind of have it blank just because you don't need to see that stuff. But I can stack things. I can have my email there. I can have another browser window open there, whatever it is. And so I can have 3 things stacked on top of each other. And then here I can just have and I maximize this as much as possible. I can have big windows on this monitor so that I can capture at the highest resolution possible so that it looks as crisp as possible in the final video. Let me see if, here's the other thing. So you might be able to see this here. Let me show you. You can see that you can actually see the back of my monitor if it's up all the way. I'd like to have this as high as possible, but I don't want it obscuring the camera at the bottom. So I try to adjust it to be as high as possible. But unfortunately, with my setup right now, when I'm looking dead center on the screen, I am looking down. So something I want to work on is the camera angle, placement of the camera. And I am planning on moving to a different room, maybe in a few months. And that's probably when I'll redo all my setup and figure out a good camera angle. Maybe it'll be like 45 angles inward in some way. Anyway, so that is, I think that covers all the hardware other than the computer. The computer is just a desktop computer that I built. It's basically a gaming computer. It's a high-end gaming computer, and so there's nothing special about it. I do have a 40 series NVIDIA card, the 4090. You don't need a 4090. I just wanted one. But having the 40 series card does let you capture using it exposes the NVENC hardware encoder for the AV1 video format. Now, AV1 is actually important to me because it lets me use a lower bit rate while still preserving much higher quality. And especially because what I'm about to go over with OBS, that ends up being important. So let me actually drag OBS onto my main screen here. And so it's capturing itself now. So it's me and me and me and me and me. Hello. So I'm going to go over my OBS setup here. So I actually have, I'm not allowed to change the profiles while I'm recording, but I have 2 profiles. I have a profile for 1920 by 1080, and I have a profile for double wide. So whatever double 1920 is by 1080. And you can see that it's in the double wide right now. So on the left of the double wide, sorry, every time I look at myself big, I have to adjust my beard because I get self-conscious. Anyway, on the left side, I've got a full webcam capture, and this just captures most of the webcam feed. You can see that it's not mirrored, unlike this display here. I like the display mirrored, but I don't like the capture mirrored. Let me make sure I'm focused. There we go. And you can see that it has basically the whole feed on it. And so that takes up the exact left half of the screen. It's 1920 by 1080, takes up the left half. The right half is whatever I want it to be, whatever I'm capturing. I'll often do a browser capture. Right now it's on screen capture. So this is literally capturing my entire screen. My screen isn't 1920 by 1080, but it's the same aspect ratio. My screen is 1440 by whatever. But then I just shrink it down to 1920 by 1080 and put it on the right side. And so by recording this way and using the AV1 codec, I'm able to record at, I don't have to do like 20,000 megabits per second. I can do, or whatever it is. I can do like 10,000 instead, and it still looks really good. Also, just the fact that half my screen is a puzzle that rarely changes lets me use lower bitrate. And the reason I like lower bitrate is it makes smaller files and I can keep them archived longer. And it's easier to work with smaller files, all that good stuff. So this double wide capture I use for most of my content. Some of my content, I do still use the single 1920 by 1080 capture. And in that case, I'm using OBS itself to lay out everything. And then I'm stuck with that layout. So anything that I want to have both a horizontal and vertical version of, usually I will capture at this double wide. That way I can do that in the edit And also, if a game surprises me, like New York Times likes to do this by changing their layout in some way or having a pop-up that comes up, things like that I can't account for ahead of time, by just capturing basically the entire browser or the entire screen, I can just fix that in the edit as I need to. And I will go over all the editing when we get to the editing stage. Okay, so that's OBS. The only other setup I have on OBS is I do actually have an audio pipeline I really like set up in OBS. And I could try to duplicate this pipeline in post, and I probably should, but I currently do have this in OBS. So if I right click on my audio input and I go to filters, I do have, I have the Reaper VST plugins. They are free. They only work on Windows as far as I know. But I'm not sure. But basically what I've got is I've got the noise suppression. If I open this interface, you can see that it's basically what you do is you try to get quiet, and then you click on the automatically build noise profile, and it'll build a noise profile that it then cancels out, and then you don't get the noise. Now, this mic has very little noise. You can see that most of its noise, this red line is what it's canceling out. I'm not going to mess with this right now, but you can see it's mostly in the very low frequencies that we're getting stuff because of the really nice cable and the really nice DAC and all that. And I try to keep my room quiet, turn all the fans off, things like that. There's not much to cancel, and the less you have to noise cancel, the better, because it doesn't just cancel noise, it also gets rid of some of the fidelity of your voice. So that's important. I'm going to close that interface. Then I have a noise gate. So the noise gate is basically just if we're lower than a certain level, volume level for the input, then just silence it, right? And so this is just tuned to have, I have used a 150 millisecond release, a 3 millisecond attack. There's no like additional filters or output mix on it. It's just, you got to drag this to be like, if I'm quiet, where's my sound? If I'm doing something that I want to be picked up, what's that threshold? You want this as high as possible without interfering with it just cutting off stuff that you want to hear. Okay, and then I have an equalizer here. It doesn't, it's really subtle. My equalizer that I use is subtle, and I'm not sure it makes a huge difference, but I've got a low shelf. I've got a band between 250, a band around 250, a band around 400, a band around 3000, and a band around 6000 using, so basically what I'm doing is I'm slightly boosting the bass. Actually, I'm doing a gain of 0 on the lowest end. And then I'm actually muting I'm doing a -2 on 250, but then I'm boosting 400, which is around where my voice is, like the low end of my voice. So that boosts the bass a tiny, tiny bit. Honestly, I'm not sure how much this EQ is doing right now. -1 dB on 3000 and then -2 on 6000. If you have problems with the S's, I tend not to, other people do. You can make a really narrow band on your EQ that de-esses, that just cancels out whatever, you go and you look at where that is in the equalizer and you just kind of plunge that down so that the S's aren't as sharp. But I haven't needed to do a lot of that. And then I have compressor. So this compressor is just a 4:1 ratio, 100 millisecond release, 6 millisecond attack, -20 dB threshold. I don't know how much this equalizer is actually doing for me right now, but compressor. I do use an additional compressor in post, which does actually do quite a bit. So that's this setup is what I used while I was streaming, and I kind of just kept it around because I liked the sound of it. I'm not sure how important all those filters are. You could just do everything in post. Davinci Resolve is what I use, and it's extremely good at audio. So I could develop something in Davinci Resolve that probably would work as good or probably better. But that's just what I'm doing right now. A lot of this stuff is like, I have legacy stuff that I'm happy with, and I don't want to touch it because it works. All right, I think a lot of people's setups are like that. So anyway, that's OBS. Make sure you are recording. And the other thing is that I actually have OBS set up to record to a specific folder. I have kind of my recordings folder, and then inside that I have a subfolder called RAW. And I just, because that name makes sense to me, for the raw footage. And OBS always saves to RAW. So here, I don't think I need this up anymore. OBS saves to RAW so that I can keep that folder clean. I move it out of there when I've used it, and any like recordings I end up not using and I don't need to keep around, I delete, and I keep that folder empty. That way it's very easy to find the recordings I just did. Don't try to like mix that in. This is organization stuff here. Okay, so with that, I think I've covered all the hardware. This certainly took 20 minutes to do it. So hopefully that's covered. I'm gonna get a sip. I usually keep my water here, but I figured that would block some stuff, so it's in a different spot right now. Okay, recording. The first thing is you'll notice I just have everything open in a tab that I'm going to record, so I can just go through it one at a time and, you know, do that recording. I do all my recordings at once, with the exception that I will do the New York Times hard Sudoku. As soon as I finished recording that, I immediately edit it and upload it. So we'll go through that process together as sort of a mini preview of that. But I'll go over it in more detail when we get to the actual editing phase. And the reason I do that is because I want that to be timely. The sooner, you know, it's content that's basically only valid for under 24 hours. The clock starts ticking at, for me, 8 p.m. as soon as the puzzle comes out. And the longer I take to record it and edit it and upload it, the less time it's relevant to people trying to solve the puzzle. And because it is a walkthrough, my SEO is amazing. If you search, I don't know how it happened, but if you search New York Times Sudoku or something like that, like it's just all my videos. And so I get a lot of traffic from search, a lot from me, from search, Google search, and people could get basically, hey, I'm having trouble with the New York Times hard Sudoku. They search New York Times hard Sudoku and they get my video. And so the sooner that's up, the more people I can capture and attract to my channel. So that is why I do this every day, other than just, you know, the educational content of it. But it really has been a great boon to my channel to be doing this daily. So I make sure I get that out as soon as I can. Sometimes I record it late. Like I don't always start at 8. Sometimes I end up having to start the next morning, and then it is late, but I still want it out as soon as I can. The other thing that I have, and this is where we're going to get into the weeds a bit here. So my folder is actually called shorts because again, legacy stuff, like I don't want to change this folder. It shouldn't be called shorts. Most of them aren't. In fact, I only make one short. But at the time it made sense to have my recordings and my shorts separated. And now just everything goes in shorts. So you can see that every single day I have a bunch of folders. So I highly recommend a separate folder with the date on it and what you recorded for every single video you're going to produce. And in this case, in video content, in this case, I don't separate out the YouTube and TikTok version of the same video. But if there's going to be an exported video that's related to that content, I put it in its own folder. And then I put all of the raw assets that I need to make that video in that same folder. And because I'm so consistent every day, this is where I'm going to introduce you to my Python scripts. And you may go, I'm not a programmer, and that's fine. I'll include links to all these Python scripts as well. But they may not be immediately relevant to you, but I'll still include links to them so you can see what they look like. But also ChatGPT wrote most of them. You do need to go back and forth with ChatGPT quite a bit for it to correct its mistakes and to improve the behavior. But I didn't bother writing these myself. ChatGPT can write little scripts like this, and it's really nice if you're able to run Python. So one thing I discovered is I can actually run Python straight from here. So if I do py and then I do ./folders.py, which is my folders.py is my Python script that makes my folders for the day. I then press enter here. You can see that little flash of that screen. And now if I refresh all the way at the bottom here, today's August 9th. I'm recording at 8. I guess right now it's 9:30 p.m. August 9th. You might notice my computer clock says 4:30 a.m. I explained that is because I'm in UK time zone on my computer right now, so I can record these ahead of time. Just by a few hours, just makes a huge difference. But you can see I now have a bunch of folders labeled 810, and I've got Adoptle, daily games, connections, etc., etc., etc. These are all the folders that I'm going to record to. And well, I am going to record today the Easy Friday crossword, which I don't have my script creating right now. So I'm actually going to just make a new folder, 2024 08 10 New York Times crossword, and that'll be included as well. If I refresh, there you go, it's sorted in there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to be normally this would be off my screen over here. I always keep my folders over here on this screen, but just to show you what I'm doing, I know I'm going to be recording the New York Times hard right now. It does make a medium folder. I only record the medium sometimes. I should also just have it always create the crossword folder. I just haven't bothered editing that right now. But if I middle click this in Windows 11, at least, it opens in a new tab. So then what I can do is I can have the raw folder open here, and then I can have this tab for where it's supposed to end up. I have some raw recordings. Oh, so this is what we're recording right now. This was a failed start, so we can delete that. This is what I'm recording right now, so I'm not going to delete that. Yeah, so I'm going to now record the New York Times hard. The only footage of that will be from that camera, and I'll speed it up because this video will have come out at least a couple days ago. I'm not sure when I'm going to release this, but I'm going to wait at least 24 hours before releasing this so as to not spoil anybody on these games. But yeah, so I'm going to stop this screen recording here. What I'm going to be doing is changing to my recording setup for the New York Times hard recording for my Sudoku recordings, and then I'm going to record the Sudoku, and then we'll be back to screen recording. Hello, let's do the New York Times hard Sudoku for August 10th, 2024. There is a link in the description if you'd like to try the puzzle yourself, and I'm going to get started right now. Yeah, I don't think there was anything crazy going on here. Let me know how you did. And of course, if you enjoyed this, why not leave a like, subscribe, and a kind comment below. All right, so I have completed the New York Times hard. So we're going to get that released now. So you notice that it is in the raw recording here. This new one is what I'm recording right now. This was a false start when I got up to check if that was still recording. So we can just delete the false start. I always put it in the recycle bin. That way, it will get deleted eventually when I clear the recycle bin. But for now, I can always restore it if I'm like, oh no, not that one. So here I'm just going to Control X and Control V to move it to the correct folder. New York Times hard doesn't need anything else before I open Davinci. So let's just do that. All right. So now here is the first thing that is extremely important, which is that I reuse the same projects every day, and I have a different project for each video output. So I have, if I just open my search here, I have the New York Times hard. I do have a double wide version if I do record it with, again, my camera on the right. I call that double wide, my camera on the left and the feed on the right. But I recorded this one with OBS layouting. So I'm going to use the New York Times hard project here. Most of the time I do record it this way. And so this is going to have yesterday's puzzle on it to start with. So what I do is for this one, it's very, very simple. There's not on purpose, there's almost nothing to it. So I just delete the old video that was there. I cleared out the clips here. Sometimes I forget to clean them out. There were 2 in there. And then here, normally I would just do this from the other monitor, but I just drag it in. Just drag it straight to the timeline. Let me pull this back up, bring it over here. So as you can see, it took me a little bit less time this time. So this is my ending video, thanking my patrons. And then in here, this is the text. So I just need to change August 9th to August 10th. And then here, I'll go over all my hotkeys and everything later, I suppose. But I just trim the I trim this to the start of the video, and I do make sure the audio is okay. So I have to put on my headphones for that. Generally, my headphones will be on while I record. Or sorry, while I edit. So here, because I'm watching it anyway, it's just a coincidence that when I go to look at the date so I can make sure I get it right, it looks like I'm looking at the puzzle. So I like to have that as my thumbnail. And then so I literally I go into this tab here. This is the only thing I use this tab for. I just grab the still and then just export it. And then I just export it to here. I just call it thumb. And so now I have my thumbnail for YouTube. So thumbnails are something that I could do better on, but they would take a lot of time. And so instead, I just choose the lazy way out for pretty much all my thumbnails so that they don't take a long time to make. Now here, I'm just going to wait till I say below, right? You can just see the waveform. And I just, while I say below, I fade into the video. And then after the fade in is completely done, notice I have the audio fading in and the video fading in. I just trim the end here, remove it, so that way it doesn't interfere with the end, the outro video. And that's literally it. I like to jiggle this like and subscribe. I got this from another creator that just pulls up that like and subscribe. I've been mostly moving away from it because I don't know how helpful it is. But if I don't jiggle it, sometimes it'll fail to export. So this is literally it. Now I just go to export and I just reuse the last thing I exported. I just click edit on it and then I just change the date to the next date. So 8/10, use the same exact settings. The settings I use for this one is just the default YouTube 1080p settings. It seems to work fine. It does make a fairly large file, but it works. And so now this, I just wait for this to export. Waiting for exports is the most dangerous time. I'm going to take off my headphones if I don't need them on. It's the most dangerous time because you go, oh, I've got 30 seconds to kill. Let me go watch a YouTube video that's 15 minutes long. That happens to me a lot. And that can cause the editing to take much, much longer than it needs to. So that is not something we're going to do today. I'm just going to sit and wait for the export to finish. Most of the exports do not take very long. Sometimes if there are exports that I know take a while, I try to come up with something I can do in the meantime. For example, one thing I can always be doing is, let me actually pull up a new Chrome here. Let me pull up YouTube. So something I can always be doing, and I never have the YouTube maximized for this, is just getting prepped to upload. The problem is if I open YouTube to get prepped to upload, sometimes I go, let me read the comments, and I get stuck there, or let me watch a video. Oh, that looks good. Anyway, so this is the YouTube Studio where you upload stuff. And so I just go create, upload videos. The export has finished. I try to check the video, and my check, another big thing that can really waste a lot of time, depending on your definition of waste, is watching your video. But I do want to make sure that the intro makes sense. I say the right date, the date's right on the screen, and that there is an outro at the appropriate time, and that there's not black afterwards. And I do 2x. All right, so that was all correct. I just scrub through to make sure nothing weird happens to pop up. And then right at the end here, so everything looked good there. So I can just upload it. Now, when you upload to YouTube, it has to do processing, and it is a very, very good idea to make sure that all the processing is completed before you publish. So the very first thing I do actually is go to the monetization tab. If you're not monetized, this isn't relevant. I turn on the monetization. I go to add suitability, and I say none of the above. None of my content has any of this stuff ever. So I can just do none of the above, submit the rating. It is truthful. I can go through this. Inappropriate language, adult content, violence, shocking content, harmful acts, recreational drugs, enabling dishonest behavior. None of this stuff is in my content, ever. I avoid that stuff. So by doing this first, it maximizes the time I have while I do the rest of this for it to do the copyright checking that it has to do when you turn on ads. And then here, this reuse details is really, really useful. I have to just find, there is a search here if you can't see it, but I just find the last New York Times Hard video, reuse the details from it, update the date here, update the date here, update the URL here. And then here's where we drag in the thumb that we created here. There's our thumbnail. Everything else should be correct. And so then I just go to visibility and I check to see if sometimes the processing is just already done. And sometimes it's barely started. So it never takes as long as it says. This says 30 minutes left. Usually it doesn't. So I just do a gamble here. And I go to the scheduling and I go from private to public. And I just sort of go, well, so my time zone right now is GMT +1. So when I look at my computer clock, it says 4:48 a.m. So I'm just going to say this is probably going to be done by 5 a.m. So I just set it to 5 a.m. here. Sometimes, you can always give it a little bit more room and then just check on it later. And then at least it'll publish if you forget. But I think that this will be done by 5 a.m. And if it's not, it'll be quickly done after, and most viewers will get the good quality. So I'm just going to schedule that for 5 a.m. there. All right. And it is scheduled for 5 a.m. It is still processing, but the processing should hopefully finish before it releases. I really wish YouTube just had an option, release after processing is done. I don't know why they don't have that. It seems like it would be a great feature, but it's not there. All right, so we have released the New York Times Heart. It'll release itself. The next thing that I record is going to be the Sudoku Adventure. Sudoku Adventure is, by design, something that I can pre-record a bunch of videos for, but lately I've just been kind of doing it during my normal process because I haven't had like a weekend where I'm like got a really good block of time where I want to just sit down and pump out a bunch. So I've been doing the adventure mostly daily these days, even though it was designed as a series that I could pre-record and just have as content that I don't have to do daily. But anyway, that's not how it worked out. So I'm going to, again, just record this and then we will, so actually I'm going to just go through all my recordings start to end, and then I will briefly pause for some prep that I end up having to do for Adoptle and also prep that I have to do for Wordle. The remaining ones, there is no prep for, and I'm not going to be doing any editing yet. I want to be in the recording mindset, get all my recording done, and then I can turn off my lights, right? Get a little bit cozier, and I can turn my fan on because it's hot in the summer and get my room cooled down a little bit more. And so I just want to get all the recordings done. And that is actually a big part of my workflow, is being able to take a mindset and just stick to that mindset and only do that. And just don't worry about anything else. Just be in that zone and just get through it. So that is what I do. It helps keep me from getting distracted. And cause like, if I'm doing one video at a time, record, edit, publish, record, edit, publish, like that's a lot of context switching. Anyway, so yeah, I'm going to stop this recording, the screen recording, because I need to actually do my real recording. And I will see you actually right after this video. I'm going to have to do the Adoptle prep, and I will show you what I do for that. Hello, let's continue our Sudoku adventure with Compound V21 by Inferio. So this continues our Region Sum theme week. It is almost over, but we are continuing it for now. And hello, let's continue our Sudoku adventure with Compound V21 by Inferio. This continues our Region Sum line theme week. Hope you're enjoying the week and Region Sum lines. So let's go over the rules to this puzzle. So we have normal 6x6 Sudoku rules. So combining sums is often a way to get around that. Cool. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. And if you did, then why not leave a like, subscribe, and a kind comment below. Alrighty, so I have completed the Sudoku adventure. I do not do the edit for this yet, unless I am doing this in the morning, and I'm worried about not hitting my 9 a.m. deadline. This does say 5 a.m., but again, it's because I'm on the wrong time zone on my computer. I'm in the UK right now, so I just moved the raw recording over. This is what we're recording right now. This was a failed start. I didn't like how I did the intro, so I just redid it. Redoing intros is something I will definitely do, but once I get into the solve, I'm stuck. That's what it is. So I do try to make sure I'm happy with the intro before I actually do anything with the solve, because I do like the solves to be live solves. So we're going to filter. Oh, we filtered this into the correct place. We'll deal with all the editing stuff for it later, including bookkeeping and stuff like that. I'm not going to show you the bookkeeping because it includes puzzles that haven't been released yet. But that is when I'll deal with all that. So again, I want to be in the recording mindset as long as possible, but I do balance that because Adoptle, we do have the new dog for today. I need to know how long the name is before I look for suggestions. And also in general, when I look for suggestions, I like to give people as much time as possible before I look at them. And so just right up to the last second when I'm going to hit record, I'm still able to get a last second suggestion in. So for Adoptle, I don't have any kind of automated process for this. I literally just look. So I just go into the most recent Adoptle video. How long is this? We've had so many 6-letter names in a row. That's crazy. So I just opened up the most recent video. I have a little bookmarklet here that'll actually move from the short to the main video view of it, just so to make it easier to see the comments. Oh, subbed since 6K. It's going well. You're famous, your local white boy. All right. This Smack has been suggesting Sunny or Ramus for so long, and there just hasn't been a 5-letter name. 5-letter names aren't even that uncommon. Frederick wants Bailey, Nala, Milo, or Luna. Bailey does appear to be 6 letters long, so that is something I can use, but I do also want to check if TikTok had any suggestions. So let me introduce you to the weird way I do TikTok, because I have 5 TikTok accounts. I got my main one that I actually use also for my personal viewing. But I split off a lot of my content into specific accounts. So I have a Word Games account. I'm going to just open that up. So what I did is I use Firefox for these because Firefox is a really nice profile system that okay, Chrome has a profile system too, but I don't like it because it adds an icon for what profile you're on at all times. And that icon annoys me. So I don't want profiles on my main browser driver, my main driving browser that I use for everything. So instead I'm using Firefox. There's nothing wrong with Firefox. And I have a different Firefox profile for each account so that it stays signed into that account. And then I found that there's a command line parameter that you can send to Firefox, -p, and then the name of the profile in quotes, and that will open it up to that profile directly. And so then I just always have the TikTok pages open for that profile. And so what I'm going to be doing is just going into here and I'm going to check to see if there were suggestions. TikTok doesn't suggest as often. So there were no suggestions on TikTok today. All right, but we're going to leave this. We're going to leave this just minimized because I'm going to need to be uploading at some point. No reason to close it. So yeah, so we will use this suggestion. So what I do is I zoom in to 400%. And I find the suggestion and I use this again. I can only give Windows specific suggestions here. Shift Alt S. Oh, sorry, it's Windows Shift S. Sorry, I do the claw, right? Thinking about what the hotkey is actually tough because I just sort of have a muscle memory. But I just grab more than I need from the comment. And then I use GIMP for this. I know it's like, what am I living in 2005? I have Photoshop and I use Photoshop too. But GIMP just makes it so much faster and easier to just really quickly do this. So I open up GIMP, I hit Control-Shift-V. Control-Shift-V will make sure it pastes as a new file. And then I just go into this rectangle selection mode. I highlight this, I hold Shift, I highlight this. I don't like having the blank hours ago in the comment because I don't want people knowing when I recorded. So I just sample this black, and then I can just flood fill the whole selection and just get rid of that. And then I can just highlight the part of the comment I want. This looks pretty good. And then I can just go image crop to selection. And I'm done. I just do Control-Shift-E, and then I can just save this to my Adoptle folder. And I just call it comment PNG. And so now I have the comment ready. But also what I'll do is I'll open up Notepad here. And again, Power Toys, very, very, very useful. I have a hotkey. I think it's the default one. I think it's, again, I claw it, but I think it's, let me just double check. Yeah, Control-Start-T. Notice I configure this to give it a purple border. That keeps it on top of everything. So even if I have other windows, it always stays on top of everything. And this is where I can have my notes. And then because I have OBS normally capturing just the browser, not the entire screen, I can put these notes anywhere I want, and they will not be captured by OBS. And so here are my notes. I'm just going to say this was Frederick. I just note what I want to say. Frederick suggested Bailey. There. So that way I don't forget. So now what I can do is I can bring up Adoptle here. Not this. Let's just make sure I fix my zoom. The unfortunate thing, especially in Chrome, I think Firefox is the same, is when you zoom, it changes the zoom for that entire website, not just the one tab. And so I always have to be fixing the zoom levels. But it does remember your zoom levels per website, which is nice because I have very specific zoom levels for my captures. So here is where I would record Adoptle. I basically put the notes here so I can remember what I'm going to be starting with and who made the suggestion. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be recording Adoptle, Connections, the New York Times Mini, Strands, Wordle, which actually I have the wrong tab open here. This should be Wordle. Okay, I'm going to record Wordle. And then all of the, before I record Wordle, I will go over how I gather the suggestions for that. But again, I like to give people as long as possible to give those suggestions up until the point that it's part of it. I'm going to do the recording. So I don't know. It's kind of like a trying to be fair to people thing. It might be a little bit unnecessary, but especially if I release the Wordle at 2 p.m. and then I record the Wordle like earlier, like 9 p.m., 10 p.m., like people have had 7 or 8 hours to give suggestions. I figure I can give them a little bit more time up to the last buzzer. Anyway, so I will be back with you when we're on Wordle. What's this dog's name? I asked for starting names, and Frederick suggested Bailey. Hello, Cheeky. Cheeky is a Dachshund and Chihuahua mix and can be adopted from Pop Culture Rescue in Pasadena, California. Meet Cheeky. Meet Cheeky, the 2-year-old Dachshund mix. She was rescued after having multiple litters who were sold, and unfortunately we were unable to track the puppies down. Cheeky is loyal and affectionate. Once she recognizes you as her person, she will be your BFF. Cheeky loves to sunbathe and is on the chiller side. She's 17 pounds and currently living in our space in Pasadena. I forgot I'd be checking in with you so soon, but I do need to gather all the assets for the Adoptle video. And so this is actually the adoption page for Cheeky on Pet Finder. So I grab the name, and again, I love this shortcut to the whatever it is. I forget already. I don't know what I press. Next time I press it, I'll pay attention. So I just grab the name, and again, it's so fast in GIMP. You just Control-Shift-V, Control-Shift-E. Save it to the right folder. In fact, I already had the folder open. It's right here. So then I always use a consistent name for this. So this is name.png because it's the name of the animal. And then I also grab the shelter. Save that as shelter. And then however many pictures there are of Cheeky, I grab them. There's only 2 pictures. I actually look ahead of time. The number of dots here. So unfortunately only 2 pictures today, but we do what we can. You can see these are the cat pictures from yesterday. And I just name them Dog 1 and then Dog 2. And that's it. Those are the pictures of Cheeky. Very cute. All right. So now I have the assets gathered for Adoptle. I don't have to go back and get it later. And so I get the next stopping point is definitely going to be right before Wordle. So I will see you there. Let's do connections. We're finding 4 groups of 4. We have a strawberry milk office run. Let's do the mini crossword for Saturday, August 10th. Now the Saturday puzzle is the larger one, and also it ends early. The Sunday one kind of comes in much earlier than usual. So if you're playing this like late afternoonish, evening, and your puzzle's different, you might have the Sunday already. So you missed the Saturday, unless you have the paid subscription, in which case you can go back in the archive. Anyway, let's go. Let's do Strands for August 10th. Today's theme is not just for poking. We have two Z's here. Okay, so we are about to do Wordle, so I need to gather the suggestions, and here's where I've done semi-automation. It's not real automation, but I've made things a bit more convenient for myself. So I'm going to open up the TikTok one first to my Wordle profile, and we are going to open up the newest video here, August 9th, and then I'm going to remind myself what the theme was. Game of Thrones. Okay, so now if I actually go to this URL, it's a slightly different, it's a very different display of the video with the comments below it. And here I can just keep scrolling down until I have all of them. And then here, unfortunately, this page captures all hotkeys. I can't use any browser hotkeys. So I have to go into the menu and then more tools and then web developer tools. And what I've done is I've written a user script that works in both Firefox and Chrome using TamperMonkey. And it adds a an extract comments function, which I put copy around it, which will copy the result to my clipboard. So extract comments until they change the layout of the page, and I have to update the script. It will copy all the comments to the clipboard for me. And so now all I do is I open up my VS Code here, and I paste this in, and it puts a T before all the names so that I know it came from TikTok. And then I have the same thing for YouTube. So I just need to find my Wordle video. I just go to my profile here and I open the Wordle video. And then again, we just scroll. Here I can actually use F12 to open up our dev console. Same exact thing, extract comments. And then I can go in here to my VS Code again. I can paste that. All right. And so now if I open up Control-Shift-P, I have an extension that has permute line shuffle. So that just shuffles them, and I go to the top, and I use the top suggestion. So this is going to be Paige's suggestion for Hound Stark. I think Stark should be accepted. That's just a normal word. Yeah. So Hound and Stark should be fine. Really, all I look for is that 1, it's a suggestion, 2, it matches the theme, and 3, they're words that will be accepted by Wordle. As long as those match, that's the one I use. Otherwise, I go move on to the next one. So sorry, Ball2536, you just missed your Sword Dream one, but page 1 here. So I just delete the rest of them, and I go back to this notepad that I had from Adoptle. Still on top of everything. Of course, you can still minimize it. I update the number, I update the date. These are all just notes so that I can do my intro correctly the first time. And then it's a Game of Thrones theme. And then we've got this suggestion page. And if I don't want to say the full name, I just include what I'm going to say. The fewer decisions I have to make while recording, the better. And we're going to start with Hound Stark. Okay. So now I just hit play here. And then I just put the notes here so I can reference them during my intro. After my intro, they're not used. And so yeah, now I'm going to record the Wordle. And I'm also I need to get the comment. So I'm going to grab the comment from Paige here. So I'm going to zoom this to 300%. And then I am going to search. So find in this page. Again, I'd normally use a hotkey, but you can't on this page. So I'm going to search for Paige. All right, that is the correct suggestion. So we just grab this comment here. Oh, I got 10 hearts. That's fun. So now I just get rid of this part. We need to sample what the black is. It's a slightly different black between YouTube and TikTok, annoyingly. And then I just crop it to where it makes sense in my brain. And then we just export that to Wordle as the comment. And then I also need to find an image to represent the theme. So I just go on Google Image Search for Game of Thrones here, and I'll probably just use this. That should work fine. So I drag that into the Wordle folder over here. I just literally can just drag it. It's almost never a proper PNG, and I do need it to be a PNG with alpha. for my workflow. So I open that in GIMP. I just add an alpha channel, do an export, and then I just call it theme.png. Not whatever that gobbledygook was. And then I can just delete this original. And then now that I have both of them as PNGs with alpha, my script requires there to be alpha, and I haven't fixed that. I can then run a Python script that I call vertical.py, and that will take all the PNGs in the current folder, and it will make a vertical version of them. So it's kind of hard to see here. In fact, if I open it in GIMP, it'll be more clear. Opening GIMP. So you can see that it takes a 1080 by 1920 vertical aspect ratio, completely transparent image, and then it sticks the image centered in there with some padding. And so then the Game of Thrones one will look like this. And this is what I use for my vertical video for that pop-up. I find it works better than trying to use something like this in the vertical aspect. I don't really know why. I think it has to do with how Davinci is handling it not very well, and it ends up being a real pain to work with in vertical. So this is my solution to that. And so now I have all the images I'm going to be using during the edit. All I need is the video. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to record the Wordle, and I'm going to record all the daily games, including the bonus game. So we're doing Wordle, including the Wordle bot, the themes wheel, which actually I should get that loaded. Yep. Then we got Dwordle, Fibble, Betweenal, all of these just open. And then I'm going to be doing a cryptogram today as well. So just do it in that order, and I will check in with you when all the recordings are done. Hello, let's do Wordle number 1148 for Saturday, August 10th. And I asked for 2 starting words related to a Game of Thrones theme. Well, those are the games for today. Hope you enjoyed them. If you did, then why not leave a like, subscribe, and a kind comment below. All right, recordings are done. So I am actually going to turn off these lights. I cannot have these lights on for so long. So I'm going to turn off my camera. Oh, no, I'm going to leave my camera on. Normally I'd turn off my camera here, but I am going to actually dim my lights and everything. Normally I'd move my mic out of the way, but we're going to keep that as well. And normally I would actually change my This is actually an opportunity for me to double check the phone is still recording and also adjust my lighting on the phone. So just give me a moment. All right, we are a bit cozier now. So I'm just going to sort in. I didn't sort the Wordle in, which is this one. And then we've got the daily games, which I'll sort in here. So this is just off to my left on my other monitor. It's going to stay there. And so now we do all the editing. So how do it's interesting how my face is all lit up. It's because of the screen. The screen's on white right now. Okay. Sorry. What am I saying? Yeah. So we're going to do all the editing now, and I'm going to go through my process. And so I'm going to go through kind of how I've set up Davinci to kind of, as I go, I'll explain the important bits. I'm not going to explain it all at once, but yeah, so we're going to do adventure here. Get a Sudoku adventure ready. And I kind of do a hybrid, like ideally I would be splitting up by types of editing. And then, so basically there's two types of editing. Let me go over that now. There's editing for time, and then there's layouting. And I split those up in my head, but sometimes they get conflated. And my workflows, again, workflow has legacy components. It has things that just make sense to me, which may not make sense to you. But in general, we've got editing for time, which is going through the video and like removing pauses, every once in a while removing some content, but mostly just removing dead air, right? So just going through it, making sure there's no dead air. I don't always edit everything for time. Sudoku, I generally don't, because people kind of want that to be real time. And generally, I don't actually have a whole lot of thinking time in my Sudokus. And then also, some of them just don't need to be edited for time, but I will double check. So there's editing for time, and then there's layouting where I lay out for horizontal for YouTube and vertical for TikTok, with the exception of the one YouTube short I make, which is Adoptle, which is vertical on both, but I still do a separate edit for both of those. We'll go over that when we get there. It's slightly separate edit. I combine as much as I can. Yeah, so I record the Sudoku already layouted, and I also don't have to edit it for time. So it's very, very fast, and that's on purpose, because if I'm recording like an entire week's worth of adventures in one day, I can just then pump out all of the edits, all the final results right away. So let me just do that now. So yeah, let me show you this first. So I do have a script, a Python script I wrote that allows me to generate. Yes, I know that says PS1. I'll explain that in a second. It allows me to generate the thumbnails. So I'm not going to go over that in great detail, and I don't think I'm even going to release the script because it's extremely specific to adventure. But the basic idea is I have a Python script that extracts the first frame from the video. You can see it actually saved that as an image. This is the very first frame from the video. It extracts that, and it also has a template image it works off of, which I forget what I called that. It's one of these. Here, this guy, this template image. So I created this template image. And what the Python script does is it crops out the Sudoku from this image. It's nothing fancy. It just knows what coordinates it generally appears in. It crops that out, and it overlays it on top of here using some blending stuff that I hacked around to make it look kind of nice. And so it blends it on top of that. You can see it doesn't quite line up perfectly, but I am not a perfectionist when it comes to thumbnails because I can't spend a lot of time on thumbnails. And then it also adds the text. And it gets this 561 from the folder name. The folder name has the number in it. It gets it from that. And so what it can do is then I also have a PowerShell script that invokes that Python on every folder, starting with the current one, and then it goes up and it finds the next number. And it moves through all the numbers ahead. So what I can do is I can record all 7 adventures at once, sort them into their appropriate folders, and then run that script once, and it generates all 7 thumbnails all at once. But yeah, it's kind of a very hacky script, and I don't think it's worth releasing because it's all over the place. So anyway, now I just drag in the video, the raw video here. It's already layouted from OBS. We're going to, okay, so this is something I've done, which for the longest time, well, so first of all, you'll notice I do reuse projects, right? I talked about that earlier, but I'm going to talk about that again. I use the same project for the same, each project outputs one video with one minor exception, which actually has caused me some confusion. But anyway, all but one project outputs one video. The other one outputs two videos. But basically I have a project per video output. And so whatever video output I'm trying to make right now, I open that project and I reuse it. It has all of the settings that I need for export parameters, for how the project's set up, what timelines I need, if it's layouting, what layouts exist. All that stuff's already in the project. And I never need to go back and export a previous day's video because it's already been released. So I just delete out the old footage and bring in the new one, or I'll do a replace clip, which I'll go over later. The other thing that I've done is hotkey wise. I have bound, let's see, I forget the names of them, but keyboard customization. On Q, where is it? Assigned. Oh, it's not what I assigned it to. It's okay. This is going to make it a lot more annoying to find. Why wouldn't it? Oh, is it? Can I click on that? There we go. So Q is start to playhead. These names are terrible, but start to playhead means that when I press Q here, let me show you. I line it up here. Just I rely heavily on visually looking at the waveform. You kind of get used to what your voice looks like. But also you can just see it's blank here until I start talking. I am going to put on my headphones though. That's probably a bad idea not to have my headphones on. So when I press Q here, it's going to take the current cursor. And this is another really important thing, which is the auto track selector. I have auto track selector only on tracks that I want affected by when I press a hotkey with nothing selected. And also stuff that will ripple along with it. So when I press Q here with nothing selected, it's only going to affect these two tracks that are auto-selected. And it's going to delete everything back to the start of that current clip. And so by pressing Q, I can just immediately just trim that. And then we immediately start with so obviously this title's wrong. It's yesterday's title. Again, I do a lot of reuse. So here I have this on the other screen. I have a spreadsheet open with all of the puzzles. This is a private spreadsheet. And I can just copy paste from the spreadsheet into the title and author. I may end up having to adjust the size of these. Today it actually looks fine. And so then I just double check that I say the same title as what showed up. All right, so now this one, the only other thing I have to do is just line up the end. So below is where I always line up this. And then we just, after the fade, we just crop the rest. So this video is done, but something I will show is the audio setup that I have for this project. And this is going to be the same in every project. So for the A1 audio track, that's audio 1, that's where my voice is. I had a compressor and a limiter. So the compressor here is on A1 in the Dynamics tab. I just use the soft knee, dialogue leveler, soft knee. I just use the exact defaults for that. And then this makeup gain, this is something I'm going to go over. This is something that was really important to me to make sure that my loudness was perfect for YouTube and TikTok. TikTok does weird things to the audio. I haven't figured out how to get TikTok not to mess up my audio, but for YouTube, it sounds really good. So normally I think I kind of want this at 9. It did sound a little loud to me, but let's just see what's going on here. So the first thing you need to do is in your project settings. We don't have to, but it's extremely useful. In your project settings, you scroll, you go to the far light options, which are here. And then you want to go to your target loudness level and put it at -14. It defaults to -23, which is TV standard, but YouTube maxes out at -14. You want to target -14. You never want to go under -14. Smaller numbers are louder. Sorry, larger numbers are louder, but 0 is the loudest, and it goes negative from there, which is, I know, weird. So I don't mess with any of this other stuff. We just want -14 there. And then here, this panel up here, with I have the loudness panel open. I don't remember if you had to add that. But in these options, I use lock metering to transport, absolute scale, and I chose BS.1770-4 as the loudness scale used. And then we just hit reset on this, and then I just play. So you can see the short. If you hit start here, which I meant to do, so that's enough for me. You can play it longer. But you can see integrated is what we're looking at here. You can also look at short as it plays, but you can see it's at -15. Our target is -14. I like to stay in the -15, -16 range. So as you want to adjust the makeup gain so that you're just around there. So you're not clipping, but you are loud. The reason you want to be loud is because you want to be consistent volume with everything else people are watching on YouTube, including music and other big creators and things like that, who are also going to be targeting that loudness. So if they watch all those videos and they have their volume knob or however their volume set up on their watching device to a specific level, and then they watch your video and you're very, very quiet and they have to turn it up for your video, that's annoying. But you also don't want to be so loud that you're clipping and you sound horrible because you're clipping. The only other thing is on the bus, I have a limiter. By putting it on the bus, it limits the final output. The way that I added that was this plus button and then dynamics and then far light and then limiter. Oops, let's see if I can configure that. There we go. And the only thing I do is the ceiling here, I change that to -2. It defaults to 0. I just change it to -2. You don't have to use the dial. You can type -2 in here. And so that limiter keeps it from clipping as well. And so, yeah, so depending on your mic settings, if you have the Scarlett like I do, you need to make sure the volume is at a decent level. Not too loud, not too quiet. You kind of want to be targeting the yellow zone when you record in OBS. Maybe a little quieter, depends on your preference. The way I think about it is the way the audio is stored and recorded and translated to digital, there's a range of fidelity for the wave that it's recording. And so if you record very, very quiet, you're missing out on this big chunk of the you're missing out on the big chunk of the wave file. And so the fidelity of your voice will be lower. But if you're too loud, you risk clipping the signal if you get louder than you usually are. And so it's a balance there. So you want to stay in like the low yellows, high greens in OBS. And then you use the makeup here to make yourself as loud as it needs to be. So yeah, that's how I think about it. It may not be as important as I just let on, but anyway, so that's that loudness. And so now I'm done, right? And I usually don't even bother checking unless I'm hearing, like I'm used to hearing out of the headphones a very specific volume for myself. And so if it sounds really different, or if this waveform is really different than what I'm used to in terms of like its peaks and stuff, then I'll go back into this tab and I'll make sure I don't need a different makeup for this video. And then I'll have to check every video. But 9 is typically what I'm at. I don't know why this one was at 10. I guess I haven't adjusted it in a while, but 9 is what I'm used to. So I think that should be fine. And that's going to vary based on your setup and your voice and how loud you are and everything, how close you are to the mic. So this is done, right? And this has been done for a while. Changing that to 9 was important, but so now here I again just edit the last export, and then I just copy paste in the location from my address bar of the Explorer, and then I just paste that in there again as the title of the video. Add the job, render it. And then while that renders, I'm going to open up YouTube. I think that's this one here. So we just go to content here, upload, and now we wait. again, it's dangerous because it takes just long enough that you're like, I'm going to go start browsing stuff, or I'm going to go on my phone, and then you end up spending 10 minutes doing that when this took 30 seconds to export. I do have a very fast computer. Your export times may vary. But that is the most dangerous time, because sometimes there's just nothing you can do and just wait. Okay. So now what I like to do is I actually like to start uploading it right away, and then I'll watch it while it uploads. All right. So I literally just scrubbed through. All right. I just realized you can't hear anything I'm doing. I'm going to just add that now, and I apologize that it wasn't there before. I don't think any of the audio was important up till now, too important up till now, but I'm sorry that I was referencing audio you couldn't hear. Let me just add that now. Okay, you should be able to hear it now. So again, first thing I always do is turn on monetization, just to give it the maximum time to process that. It's not too important for these videos because I don't release them right away anyway, but here we're going to reuse the details from Adventure, and then I just go to 561 here. I copy paste in the title and the author. And here I didn't generate the link yet. I'm going to do that real quick. Okay, I made the link. That's a little bit private how that works, because it's a private API that Sven gives to special people. Eventually, everyone will be able to make custom links like that, but it is private at the moment. Here I need to find where my solve starts so I can timestamp it. It's usually not that hard to find because the screen goes gray. The 5. All right, so this is at 148.13. YouTube always rounds up, so 149. Okay, thumbnail we already have. Boop. And that's it. So I just go here, and I just remembered that I haven't changed my time zone. So I am going to do that now. I'm going to go back to my time zone, Mountain Time. Okay. Suddenly it's not even midnight yet. Okay. So here we go to schedule, and then the time zone doesn't update dynamically here, so I'm just going to choose Denver here as well. And then we want to release on the 9th. Sorry, not the 9th. We want to release on the 10th at 9 a.m. That's when I release my adventures. So I just schedule that. And there we go. And then once I refresh this page here, I need the YouTube link for my spreadsheet. Oh, I also need, let's see. There we go. So now I'm not showing you this, but I'm updating the spreadsheet with the information, which I actually have an automated script that happens at 9 a.m. every morning, 9 a.m. my time, every morning, that grabs the correct puzzle for the date and adds it to the public sheet. So that everyone gets updated automatically at 9, which means it's always a race against the clock if I'm recording in the mornings to make sure that that spreadsheet's all updated. It's recorded, it's released, spreadsheet's updated before 9 a.m. And if I miss it, I miss it. The script does nothing if there's no new puzzle there. And then I just have to manually do it myself. But I don't like being late on Adventure, which is why I should be pre-recording them. Now, the other thing is I do want to know the length of the video, which I recorded in my spreadsheet just privately. And so if you want to know the length, it's just here, 8:52. So I round that up to 8:53. All right, so that's the YouTube version. It's ready and scheduled. Now we're going to do the TikTok version of it. So I call that Sudoku TikTok. My projects are named weird, but I remember what they are, so it's fine. So here, this is the first one that has layouting to it. So the way that I lay out is I have the same video added to multiple tracks. I'm sure this is the way everyone would do it in DaVinci. And then I have zooms and positions and scales and crops on the different parts of the video to relay out to vertical. And so this is my camera. This is the rules here. So I'm going to double check that actually, okay, I haven't replaced the feed yet, which is why. That's the rules there. And then this is the puzzle. And then I also have text here for my, for the title here at the beginning of the TikTok video. And this thing over here is the note, that tracking sheet's in my link tree. And I line that up with the start, or where when I say there's a link in the description, I line it up with that. So we don't want to have to redo all this layouting every time. And it's consistent for all of my videos. I make sure it's consistent. Not for all my videos, for this video always uses the same layout, right? Every day. And so what I can do is I can take this clip in my clip pool. I can right click and I can go replace selected clip. And then I can just browse to adventure here. In fact, I can just grab it from over here. And we're replacing it with the raw clip here, not the final YouTube version. And so now everywhere that clip appeared in my timeline, it's now the new one. So first thing I check is that the rules are correct. So I've actually have this set up so that I can just change the zoom level of the rules until they kind of until they line up well there. And then the puzzle and my camera are already perfect, right? And they usually will be. They always will. Ideally, they always are. Here I do need to change this text. I end up copy pasting the title and author 4 times during this process. And then the last thing I need to do, I remember it was around 2 minutes actually, is and I'm going to get started right. Find the frame for the oh, something I didn't do is crop the start. So I need to make sure this is cropped properly. Hello, let's get there we go. So we're gonna find this again. It is around 2 something. I'm remembering wrong. It's not 2 something. Right. So I find the frame. So here's another really nice tip here. The cursor is showing you the frame that comes right to its right. The cursor is between 2 frames. If you kind of think about it, the cursor is between 2 frames, and the one you're seeing in the preview window is the one to the right of the cursor. Unless you're at the very end of the timeline, then there is no frame to the right of the cursor, so it shows you the frame to the left. So most of the time, except for that very end of timeline scenario, it's showing you the frame to the right. So this is not where I want to line up the ending of this text. I want to line it up here so that the text ends. Notice how the text is only to the left of my cursor. The text is ending at the same frame that we're seeing the end of that gray, where I hit go. And then I just line up the beginning of it with where I start talking. So around here, right? So, and that's it. Those are the rules. There's a link in the description if you'd like to try the puzzle yourself. And I'm going to get started right now. And what's nice is I don't have to do any editing for time in my Sudoku videos. I do need to drag this to be the correct length though, because when I do the replace clip, it does not fix the length of the clips. So I need to just drag it until it doesn't let me anymore. And then I'm going to crop the end. So here's where I'm going to introduce another hotkey here. There is a hotkey for trim to end. I don't bother with that one. I probably should, but on W, I have razor. So the razor is just going to cause a cut. It's going to make 2 different clips. So let me show that. So when I hit W here, and this is, these are already keys, but they're extremely inconvenient, and you're going to be using 2 hands and moving your hands around all the time as you're trying to edit. So I just have Q, W, and E and R on important buttons, and then I use spacebar to play. The one thing I haven't remapped that I should is to go double speed. I have to hit L twice, and I do move my hand for that. I really should make that more ergonomic. I just haven't figured out what key I want that on yet. So razor to cut it, and then I just select this here. And what I've done is I have mapped to E. Oops, that is not the right. To E, I have mapped ripple delete. So when I press E, it will delete the clip and ripple anything after it. In this case, there isn't anything after the ripple. If I want to delete without rippling, I still have that on backspace, and I have to actually move my hand over to backspace as well. So yeah, QWE are kind of the big ones that I use. What do I have on R? I don't actually have anything on R. Never mind. So it's just QWE. All right, and so now I just this below. The video ends like a split second after I stop talking because TikTok doesn't. TikTokers will scroll anyway by then. Don't want dead air at the end of the videos. Okay, so this video is ready. So I just go to the export here. So again, I'm going to copy in this, but I make sure I add TikTok to the end of the video name. Export that. And now we're going to get this uploaded to TikTok. So I do need to open up TikTok on my main browser here. This is the only one I don't use Firefox for. It's just because TikTok's just logged into this account anyway on my browser. So now I'm going to go into here. Hello, and I'm going to copy this whole description. And I do not trust hotkeys on the TikTok website, so I rarely use them because they don't work half the time. They're capturing a bunch of keys and making them do different things. So we're done. And so now I'm gonna drag this in, but I'm also gonna watch it to make sure it's okay. Hello, let's continue with Compound V21 by Inferio. This continues our Region Sound line theme week. Hope you're enjoying the week and Region Sound lines. So let's go over the rules to this puzzle. So we have normal 6x6 Sudoku rules. So in every row, every column, and every like that. Setters don't really, most setters, some do. Most setters don't like to include required fiddling in their soul paths. So combining sounds is often a way to run that. Cool. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. And if you did, then why not leave a like, subscribe, and a kind comment below. Hello, let's continue our Sudoku adventure with Compound. So the video player I'm using is VLC, and it has a hotkey to speed up, which is very convenient. It's just plus on the numpad. So here I'm going to paste in this. When I paste this, I use Control-Shift-V. I don't know if this is a Windows feature or a PowerToys feature or what, or a feature of Chrome, but generally Control-Shift-V is going to avoid trying to paste formatting. It's just going to paste the plain text. So that's better than just Control-V. And here I'm just going to change this to 561. I'm going to change this to the title. This is the final time so here, this is where Control-Shift-V is important. So if I just do Control-V, I get the formatting from the Google Sheets. So if I can do Control-Shift-V, then I just get the plain text. All right. And so now these hashtags will not be real hashtags if I paste them in. So what I have to do is I have to get the cursor to the end of the hashtag, wait for this to pop up, and select it. Now, what I've discovered is if I use Control-Right, that goes word by word. And then if I use Enter, it'll accept it. So I go Control-Right, right. Then I have to go one left to get down beyond, because it goes past the space. And then I hit Enter. So Control-Right, right, left, without Control held, Enter. Control-Right, right. This one doesn't have it too much to go right, so we don't have to go left again. Here, this is the link. Oh, and there is one more thing I want to talk about, which is normally this guy is annoyingly small. So I actually wrote a user script for the TikTok upload website that makes this taller because I need a lot more room. I don't think I'm going to release that one either. I don't know. It's kind of weird to release that one, but I don't know. I guess I could try to include a link to it if I remember. Here I do have a playlist for it. And then we schedule this for 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock on the 10th. Perfect. And yeah, this all looks good. It just always chooses the first frame as the kind of cover, which is fine. I just make sure my first frame has that text on it. And then so we just schedule that. So that is scheduled to come out at 9 o'clock. And so we're done with Sudoku Adventure. 2 down. A few more to go. So next up is Adoptle. I go in kind of a quasi-alphabetical order, kind of based on my folder structure, right? So in my folder structure, I've got Adoptle first. So that's what I do first, right? Now I start with this DW. DW is, or double wide is kind of what I'm saying is I'm editing such that the source video is a double wide video. So you can see that my Adoptle is actually one of my more complicated projects because of all the different things going on. But just like before, the very first thing I do is I replace clip on the source video. So we're going to find Adoptle here, and I'm going to bring in the source video here. I'm also going to replace cat 1 with the dog 1 picture because I have a special animation on that first image. But the rest of them, I'm just going to get rid of. I'll bring in the new ones later. The comment, I do have a comment today for this one, so we'll replace the comment as well. We also replace the name and replace the shelter. So basically most of the assets get replaced within the media pool. And now I just do a bunch of deleting. I delete everything except the first clip of the video. I delete everything but the first animal image. And then I do need to activate the comment because I didn't have a comment yesterday, but I do today. So the first thing I'm going to do is edit for time. So I'm going to drag this all the way left. I'm going to drag this. I'm going to zoom out, keep zooming out until this doesn't drag anymore. So this is my full recording. It's a minute 45 seconds about long. And here I'm going to edit it, basically editing out long pauses, right? And I record knowing that later I'm going to edit out long pauses. So I'm willing to just sit there and think for a bit because I know I'm going to edit that out. So here I'm using Q just to get rid of that part. And then here's where it's really nice, right? I can just look at this waveform and go, okay, I have a pause here, right? Bailey. And sometimes I want context on exactly what happened there, but I can literally just, so here's what I did. I did W to create a cut between the two clips. And then I move the cursor over to the end and I just hit Q and then it's gone and everything ripples back. So here, this is what it looks like now. Ooh, your name ends in Y. So that was a bit awkward, right? So I can just undo Bailey. So I only want a small amount clipped out here. Bailey. Ooh, your name ends in Y. There's an E somewhere. I'm thinking like ENNY. What would be like a good name for that? Ooh, how about RRY? Is your name Sherry? No, but the HE is correct. Huh. I'll remove hus and stuff. Most of the time I don't. So it kind of flows a bit better that way. Huh. Is your name CH or PH? I like CH or TH. Now normally also I'm actually I'm doing it at 2x. So let me show you that. Or TH. I think I like CH better. But what is your name? And Chevy with 2 V's? I didn't think so. Huh. Ooh, is your name Cheeky? Oh, it is. I didn't think that would be right. Just trying to think of something to guess. All right. Hello, Cheeky. Cheeky is a dachshund. Meet Cheeky. So I messed up this line, but I knew that I could just redo it, right? Meet Cheeky. Meet Cheeky. I didn't actually mess up the line. I just didn't know what to say next yet. So I just redid it, right? So I just had to... You just got to be careful to cut those things out. Either remember that you wanted to, or just make sure you're listening to everything that you're keeping in. California. Meet Cheeky, the 2-year-old dachshund mix. She was rescued after having multiple litters who were sold, and unfortunately, we were unable to track the puppies down. Cheeky is loyal and affectionate. Once she recognizes you as her person, she will be your BFF. Cheeky loves to sunbathe and is on the chiller side. She's 17 pounds and currently living in our space in Pasadena. So we just do an aggressive cut at the end there. Okay, so next step here. This is 1 minute 8 seconds, a little bit more long. So this is not going to be appropriate for a short, but we'll deal with that when we make the YouTube cut. I do the TikTok cut first, which actually wants slightly over a minute, so that I can monetize on TikTok. It has to be a minute long. So that's why I include the long outro here where I describe the dog. And then I always know I can cut out some or all of that when I do the YouTube edit. So here we're gonna line up the subtitles here. What? Do you hear the? That's where I line up where it goes to this. What's this dog? It says cat. Sometimes I forget to change that, and it's really funny. Dog's name. Dog's name. This is about where name happens. I've gotten really fast at that, but I'm doing it slow just to show you. The comment should be lined up pretty well, but we can line it up better if we need to. Also, whenever you replace clip on something that has like animations on it, by the way, for this animation, I use Magic Animate V3 free. It is created by another YouTuber, and I'm sorry, I don't remember the name of the YouTuber. But it lets you do crazy animations on stuff. I don't think in this video I'm going to go over how I animate everything. There's really good tutorials on YouTube for how to do all that stuff, especially if you look at the tutorials for Magic Animate V3 free. He has videos on how to do that. So I think that's out of scope here. But anyway, sometimes those animations don't work right after replacing the clip. So just even nudging it by a frame just to make it dirty and make it recalculate is all you need to do. So what's this dog's name? I asked for starting names and Frederick suggested Bailey. Ooh, your name. So here, I'm just going to have a name go away around there. Right? Starting names and Frederick suggested Bailey. Ooh, your name. Just making sure Bailey is that suggestion. Just making sure that's correct. All right. And so now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find where I got. Ooh, is your name Cheeky? And here I'm using left and right on the arrow keys to move frame by frame. And so again, I don't want this frame. I don't want it looking like this. I want it looking just like this, because to the left is the puzzle, to the right is you won. And I'm going to make a cut there. And here, this is, so what I've done is whenever I do layouting like this, I link the clips together using this link clips option, Control-L, or just right click and do link clips. But it means that when you select it, it's going to select all of them at once, which is very convenient when you're working with layouted stuff. So they don't get desynced. But in this case, I want to select just this one. So, and then I can actually hold that. So I can hold Alt. While holding Alt, it selects just the one clip you clicked on. And then I'm going to hold Control so that I can add more to that. So all three of these, I'm just going to use Delete here. I'm not going to use my ripple delete. I'm going to use the normal backspace delete. That way nothing ripples with it. And so now here I don't have the screen capture part anymore. I just have my camera. You can see this is the camera, and then the screen capture is gone. And then exactly at this moment, I'm going to... So here's another tip. I don't like having snap on permanently, snapping, because it's really hard to get the cursor exactly where you want using the mouse. But if I start dragging this with snapping off, and then I hit the hotkey for snapping, which is N, it'll turn snapping on until I finish dragging, and then it immediately goes back off. So that's what I do. Like I select these, start dragging, hit N, it'll snap to that cursor, and then now these are lined up perfectly. So, ooh, is your name? The Adoptle banner goes away when the puzzle goes away. And it is. I didn't think that would be right. I was just trying to think of something to guess. All right. Hello, Cheeky. Cheeky is a... So I need to make this longer, and then I'm going to line up when I talk about the shelter. Dachshund and Chihuahua mix and can be adopted. So can be adopted from is about when I start the animation here. These are both individually animated, and they happen to line up, and I want this exact overlap preserved. The best way I have found to do that is to bring this over, and I'm not too exact about when this happens, but I noticed that this says plus 406. Do you see that? Plus 406. Then I let go, and then here I'm going to make this plus 406 exactly as well. Cheeky is a dachshund and Chihuahua mix and can be adopted from Pop Culture Rescue in Pasadena, California. Now around here, where I do this cut before Meet Cheeky, I'm going to have that animation. I'm going to have this clip end. California. Meet Cheeky. And so now it goes away. So I just have a zoom in and zoom out animation on that. So now the final thing, this takes a decent amount of time depending. I do the animal images. So here I'm going to just move. See that this zooms in. What's this? So I just want it to end up in a decent spot. So I'm just going to move this down here-ish. In my mind, I have a pretty good idea of where the kind of UI elements are in both TikTok and Shorts. And you kind of, and also there's kind of like some devices will clip the left, right, top, bottom a bit. So I kind of have a decent idea of safe places to put it. Like I wouldn't want that unless I have no control over it. Like sometimes I just don't have a choice, but I wouldn't want the dog's head to be near this right flush with the top, because this is where like the search bar is, and sometimes it even gets cut off a bit. So I give it a little bit of room here so that the dog is visible. And I just do it by feel. If it's not perfect, it's not really a big deal. People can still see it through that stuff, but I do try my best. So this dog one, it was a replace clip. It's always going to be there. And then I just, based on how many images I have, I kind of decide how that's going to go. So I'm going to reuse image dog 1 here, just by instinct here. So here I've literally just dragged it in again. I could have dragged it in from here too, but I'm just used to dragging it in from my Windows Explorer, just straight into the timeline. It knows it's the same one. It doesn't make a new clip in there. And then as I drag, unfortunately, when you drag it in, you got to drag and drop it in, let go, and then drag it again, hit N to snap, and then you can snap it to there. And then I also have in my favorites, I have a blur dissolve that I like to use between the images. I asked for, you can see that blur there. And then this image here, what I need to do is I need to figure out where I'm going to end it. So how many guesses did I make? I made 3 guesses. So I think what I'm going to do... There's an E somewhere. I think like E and Y. Normally I line this up with a guess. So when I make a guess, then the image changes. I think that works fine. I think I'm going to go all the way to Sherry here. Is your name Sherry? So you can see as soon as that basically the clues come in, I just drag this here. And again, the clues are coming in just to the right of my cursor. So everything to the left of my cursor does not have the clues in there. So now here I just need to make sure the dog isn't covering the puzzle. So I crop the dog as best as I can here, and I see what it looks like if it fills the whole screen. I am missing a good amount of the dog, so what I'll do is I'll just adjust the zoom level on it. And the first thing I try is lining up the zoom level about with the puzzle itself. And then I just bring it up to just under the guess. And that looks a lot better to me. So this is what it's going to look like. What's this dog's name? I asked for starting names, and Frederick suggested Bailey. Ooh, your name ends in Y. There's an E somewhere. Okay. And so now we're just going to move to the second image. We only have 2 dog images today. So I'm just going to bring that all the way to the end until I get it right. I'm going to put a blur dissolve between them. And then here, this is where I need to make sure this dog is, so we're going to crop it. We're going to shrink it. Bring it right under Cheeky there. And that looks pretty decent. So, and then now here, I need to show the dog again. I'm going to just toggle between the images here. I'm going to bring this to here. I'm going to bring this. I just kind of like to figure out exactly where these end up going. Is this Cheeky? Cheeky is a dog. Right, I'm going to actually bring this here. I'll add the blurs between them. And then I'm going to go about, I don't know, I just kind of look at the waveform. You can see I have like a little pause there. I'm going to go near the end of that pause, and then I'm just going to bring the other dog one back here to the end. And then what I need to do here then is I just need to make sure that these are well lined up with the screen. Sometimes I'll change zoom levels and adjust things, but these seem okay. All right. And so that's it. That is the full Adoptle video for TikTok. I don't fall in the trap of watching it again for no reason. I went through everything. Everything's lined up. I'm going to export it, and then that exported video I can scrub through and just make sure everything's okay. It really, like, I produce so many videos a day that if I watched them all 5 times, I wouldn't have time to get through them all. So these are pretty short though. So I'm going to walk through the entire thing at 2x in VLC before I upload it. What's this dog's name? And Frederick suggested, what's this dog's name? I asked for starting names, and Frederick suggested Bailey. Ooh, your name ends in Y. There's an E somewhere. She's 17 pounds and currently living in our space in Pasadena. What's this dog's name? I asked for starting names, and Frederick suggested Bailey. I also have VLC loop it so that I can see what the loop will look like. So that looked fine to me. So this goes to the Word Games channel, which I have open here. So we're just going to upload that, drag that in. I actually let this finish and show the video before I change tabs, because sometimes I'll change tabs and it messes it up. So we're just going to grab this. What's this cat? Grab the description from the most recent. Whoop. Go away. What is this? What's this? Try again. What's this? The TikTok desktop website is the worst website I've ever visited in my life. But anyway, paste that in. Change this to dog. And now I need to bring up the shelter here so that I know what to type there, and I just transcribe it. Oh, I think I said pop culture. Oops. It's too late now. Rescue in Pasadena, CA. I can usually anticipate what correction comments I'm going to get by the time I've edited and posted, but I just let it happen. I think people like to comment that stuff. So this is Pasadena, so I'm just going to hashtag Pasadena here. That is probably because I spelled it wrong. Pasadena, there we go. Between Pasadena and Pasadena, California, I'm going to pick the one with the most posts. So that's what I do. And I do include hashtag ranks in all of my videos that hopefully connects them together. So if you like a good number of my videos, it'll start showing you all of them with hashtag ranks on them. That's my plan, at least. I'm almost to 1,000 videos for hashtag ranks. So here, again, all these ats. If I had known that dots didn't autocomplete this process, like had I known ahead of time what I was doing, I would not have put dots in my handle, because I have to delete everything up to the dot for it to bring this up, and then I have to remember what it was. So this was Word Games, and I also have to be careful not to accidentally at someone with a copycat account. But anyway, so this is all correct. We're going to schedule this to 10 a.m. That's when I release the Adoptle on both platforms. Okay, we're going to schedule that. And now we need the YouTube version of it. But I know for the YouTube version, I'm going to need this again. So I just copy this to my clipboard here. All right. So I have a separate project for the YouTube version. And what I do is I just reuse the TikTok version. And here I don't have any like layouting or anything. I can literally just delete everything from here, but it's still useful to reuse the project because you still have all the settings and everything correct. And also everything in your media poll that you might want to reuse still correct. And I just drag in the final TikTok version and I see that it's 108, right? I need this to be 59:59 or less for it to be a short. So I need to find what I'm going to cut out here. And the question is, do I want to cut out content of the solve or do I want to cut out, description of the dog? And in this case, I'm going to cut out some dog description. I'm going to listen to that again because I remember I just watched through the solve and I was happy with that for YouTube. I was thinking about that at the time, whether this would be good for YouTube. It is. I didn't think why that would be right. Just trying to think of something to guess. All right. Hello, Cheeky. Cheeky is a dachshund and chihuahua mix and to be adopted from Pop Culture Rescue in Pasadena, California. Meet Cheeky, the 2-year-old dachshund mix. She was rescued after having multiple litters who were sold, and unfortunately, we were unable to track the puppies down. Cheeky is loyal and affectionate. When she recognizes 2-year-old dachshund mix. Dachshund mix. Cheeky is loyal and affectionate. Once she recognizes you as her person, she will be your BFF. Cheeky loves to sunbathe and is on the chiller side. She's 17 pounds and currently living in our space in Pasadena. So I still need 2 seconds. I think this last sentence isn't as important. So we're just going to end here. Now the chiller side. And then it loops, there's no such thing as an awkward ending for a short because it loops anyway. What's this? So here, before I export it, I do. So TikTok, even though I have licensed the rights to the music I use through Artlist.io, even so, I can't include it in the video I upload to TikTok because TikTok will copyright violate it anyway. They don't check against Artlist to see if I have the license. YouTube does. YouTube's fine with it. So I add music to the YouTube version, but I don't add music to any of my TikToks. If I wanted to add music to any of my TikToks, I'd have to transfer the video file to my phone and post it from the app and then choose a sound in the app to do it. And when you post from your phone, you can't schedule it. So I choose to schedule instead of having music. And I think most of my content doesn't need music anyway, but this one actually does benefit from music. Now, my choice of music, I have Cool Cats, which I use for all the cats. I have Bubblegum, which I use for puppies, and I have Surfing Time, which puppies and smaller dogs. And I have Surfing Time, which I use for kind of the larger dogs. This looks like a small dog to me, so I use Bubblegum. And what I've done here is I've already double-clicked on Bubblegum, and I've changed its volume in my media pool to -25 dB, so it's already the correct volume when I drag it in. Even when I drag this cursor, if I press N, that'll turn on snapping temporarily until I let go, which is very nice. So I'm pressing N a lot as I drag, which is very convenient. What's this dog's name? I asked for starting names, and Frederick suggested Bailey. So we have music now. I don't really care where the music ends either. There's certain things that I'm like, I've just decided I don't care. So here I can just change these 9s to 10s and I'll just export it. I keep reaching to the right to get my water, but it's all the way to the left today. Already done exporting. So now we're going to go to YouTube. YouTube is here. And we're going to upload this. Nope, that's the TikTok version. YouTube. You have no idea how many times I've accidentally started an upload process on the wrong platform. But I try my best to remember, and I have it in the file name too. So here I'm going to reuse details from the last Adoptle video. I make sure up here it says looks like you're uploading a short. If it doesn't say that, that means I didn't make the length correct. Or I chose the wrong video. So we changed the date to the 10th. I have this in my clipboard already, so I can just paste that in. And that's all I have to do. None of the above for add suitability, and then we schedule this for the 10th at 10 a.m. All right. And we are done with Adoptle. All right, next up. After Adoptle, I do daily games. So this is a decision on my part to do daily games start to end, and I'm going to explain this. This is going to introduce a little bit of a newer workflow for me that I haven't shown you yet. I choose to do daily games earlier in my edit because it is one of the toughest edits. So Adoptle is a tough edit because of all the stuff going on. Daily games is kind of the second toughest edit, and it's also usually pretty long to edit. You can see how many cuts I do. I want that when I still have the capacity to do it. If I wait till the end of all my editing session, then I've lost a lot of the motivation. It's a long process every day. So what I'm going to do here, so here's this first project is only, I call it raw, and it's only for editing for time. So I literally just delete all this, I bring this in, and it's still in this double wide recording format. And I still export it as this double wide recording format. My goal here is just edit out what I want to edit out, and that edit will be used for both YouTube and TikTok. So here, but there could be additional edits done in YouTube and TikTok, but this is the baseline edit that's used by both. So here I'm just, again, just cut out my awkward pause at the start, right? And then I'm going to watch this through at 2x. I sometimes jump forward. What I'm on the lookout for are, like, I have to pick a good zoom level, and then I just look out for longer pauses. And then I have to watch the context to see if I want to edit out that pause or not. Or if, like, maybe something's going on that just the mic wasn't picking up. So this is a pretty long edit. Hello, let's play a bunch of daily word games. Today's bonus game is a cryptogram. So here I purposely have pauses in here that I keep in my intro, because the intro is slightly different between TikTok and YouTube. So on YouTube, I would want to go from here, a cryptogram, straight to here. So I'm going to start with crypt. But on TikTok, I do this. Game is a cryptogram. And as usual, that is published as a separate video, so you can check that out after this one. So I'm going to start with crypt, but I don't do this in the raw edit. I do this in the edit for YouTube and TikTok, so I leave that alone. And as you, all right, left, it's basically green Y, right? We know it's an N and Y, so we're going to ignore that because we have yellow C on the right. So none of this looks like it's something I'm going to need to cut out. So I'm going to skip ahead, right? And that's the last time I'm going to explain what I'm doing, but that's kind of my thought process. Okay. Ooh. L-E. So how long is this pause, right? I want the concept of having the pause without making you wait the whole pause. So I do something like this. Ooh, L-E-A, leech, right? It makes me look smarter, which is not the intent. I just don't want to waste your time. Musky. It is musky. Nice. A musky leech. But it's leech with E-A, which is the verb, right? Would have been great. So none of this looks like a particularly significant pause. This is kind of the first significant pause I'm seeing. And it's actually, I have an in the middle, so it's a longer pause than that. And I can cut out ums in the middle of pauses. ER word we could do, which... Well, okay, we know some ums are okay to keep in. It signifies that I started to think. Or something like that. All right, the E's lying again. That's lucky. This is another but I don't need it. Lucky. It depends on whether I connected the to what to the kind of phrase as kind of the ending of a phrase, or whether it's like I'm sitting here waiting, and then I just instinctually say to fill time, and then I wait longer. I cut out that Yeah. Pager. The problem is we're very much in a trap here. So it's ager. Wager. So here, this looks like a pause, but actually I'm typing wager. So we don't want to cut that out. No. So I usually, I always, instead of just clicking to the end, I scrub through what I'm going to cut out, and I watch the puzzle to make sure there's nothing there bad. It's the only one. I don't care that this looks like a jump cut. There are ways to smooth it out, but I honestly don't care. It's the only one I see. You'll also notice that I don't have any compressor on this one. Maybe, I don't know if you noticed that, but it sounds quieter, right, than the other ones. My raw edit, I do not put the audio modifications on. I've made that decision because I thought maybe I might want to have different audio settings for YouTube and TikTok. I don't know if that was the right decision or not, but I mean, it's not really a big problem because the audio settings get reused every day anyway. So, A word. See, this I don't need. It's like long pause, then long pause again. Let's just get rid of all that, Puper. Right? Puper. See, I'm typing during this, so I need to keep it. I thought maybe pupia or something would be birds. And this is, I have experimented with a couple different softwares that automatically remove silence for you. And I'm not happy with any of them simply because of exactly what I'm talking about. Some of the silences I want to keep in. Sometimes the puzzle is changing during the silence. And there's ums and stuff in the middle of thinking that I want to remove. And so I end up having to go through the whole thing anyway, but it's in a context of a bunch of it having already been removed by a computer, and I don't have the correct context for what's going on. So pupil. The other, if I'm not sitting here explaining, this process can be very fast. So I'm going to just do the rest of this without much talking, but I thought I'd give some context for what I'm doing. We're going to be doing this a lot, and I'm just going to show you. Well, those are the games for today. So here, I have two different outros. I have the TikTok outro, which ends here because the bonus game is released as a separate video on TikTok. But then I have the YouTube outro after the bonus game, so I got to be careful not to cut either of those out. Well, those are the games for today. Hope you enjoyed them. I think I messed this one up, so we're going to remove it. Well, those are the games for today. Hope you enjoy. All right. Well, those are the games for today. Hope you enjoy them. There is still the cryptogram and Adoptle to watch if you want to watch more of my word games. And of course, how'd you do? I'll leave a little bit of space here just to give myself an edit point, but it's not too important. So here's the cryptogram. Because cryptogram, the bonus game in general, is released as a separate video, and those tend to be big drivers to traffic to my channel, to my word games channel. Like cryptogram especially, I've had a video with 1 million views on the cryptogram. So the bonus game, I try to do a little bit higher effort editing. It's not too much more, but I watch through the whole thing and I make sure that I edit it properly because I don't want to miss out on a bonus game going viral, because it's happened several times. One of the issues maybe that I'm having right now is the common games that used to go viral are now bundled in the daily games that I upload to TikTok. I used to just pick out a game or two from the daily games and just release those as separate videos on TikTok. But then I started releasing, because I got the ability to upload 60-minute videos to TikTok. I started releasing the entire daily games to TikTok and then just only releasing the bonus games separately, but it means I miss out on stuff like Betweenal and Word 500, which in the past have gotten hundreds of thousands of views on certain videos, kind of randomly. So I'm not sure what to do about that, if anything, but because the people who watch the daily games every day on both YouTube and TikTok really enjoy that format. So I'm just really hope for the bonus game to be a good one every day. And just miss out on the fact that people do like Betweenal and Word 500, which are now part of, even Fibble sometimes are now part of the full daily games video, which is difficult to communicate, and also to get to 1 million views, I don't think you're going to get that on a 30-minute video. So anyway, that's my explanation. Let's, of course, decrypt this cryptogram. This is a quote by E. Lockhart. He was contemplation and enthusiasm, ambition and strong coffee. I could have looked at him forever. E. Lockhart. All right, the ending's taken care of by the individual YouTube and TikTok videos because they end differently. So I just leave all this alone and export it. So this is going to export using AV1 again. Usually I don't use AV1 on my exports, but for the raw ones, I'm using AV1 to get the nice higher quality output, but I can only do that again because I have the NVIDIA encoder in the 4000 series card. So if you don't have a 4000 series card, it's perfectly fine to just use H.264 and just bump up the bitrate more. But yeah, so I'm just gonna get this exported. All right, I did that. So just change the 9 to the 10. And I have quite a list of these built up. So after I add new job, I'm going to go up here and clear rendered so that I just have this one. I'm just going to render it. So this is one of the most dangerous moments in terms of losing time, because this does take a relatively significant amount of time to export because it is double wide. It's pretty long. Looks like it ended up being 26, almost 27 minutes long. And AV1 does take longer to export. So there's not much to do here other than wait, which is why it's dangerous, because I'm just sort of sitting here, but I will wait for this to finish. Okay, it has finished. It took 4 minutes and 29 seconds to export, which is probably the longest export that we have here. So ideally, again, because of context switching, ideally, I would do all of my edits for time in a row, but I have found that I'd like to just get daily games over with so that it's mentally not there anymore. And so I do end up doing the TikTok and YouTube version of it right away, and then I just don't have to worry about it again because it is one of the harder edits. And so just getting that mental load off helps me. So again, there's a balance for all of this. So I'm going to do the YouTube first. So this is where I'm going to introduce, I think that this was extraordinarily helpful for me to think of. I didn't learn this from anybody. I basically just worked through this problem, and this was a pretty elegant solution that I'm actually really enjoying. So I need a different layout for each of the games, and I need to be able to cut at each game and switch the layouts. And what I don't want to have to do is redo the layouts every time. Originally what I was doing is I would have each of the games, I'd have an example layout for each of the games, and then I would individually copy paste into those clips. And it was a real pain, especially if I had to go back and like change an edit or things like that. It was bad. So now what I'm doing is I have all these sub timelines. So I have a timeline for every game that is possible to have in the daily games up till now. If there's a new one, I can make a new one, right? In fact, I just duplicate one of them and then do the layouting real quick. It doesn't take that long to lay out, but I don't want to do it every time, right? So here, yesterday was one up. The first thing I need to do is replace the clip. So we replace it with the raw one we just exported. So this already is cut for time. I don't have to worry about cutting for time. I do have to worry about cutting out certain things intro and outro wise. But other than that, I don't. So I'm going to show you here, for example, the betweenal timeline here. If I actually find where betweenal is, you can see it looks correct for betweenal. It looks awful for every other game, but for betweenal, it looks perfect. So this is the timeline that's used just for when betweenal is active. And what I need to do here is I just need to, I check it on betweenal. Is this video longer than the longest video I've had so far, right? This is 132. Unfortunately, this timeline starts at 01, and if I try to adjust it to start at 00, like I usually like, it actually messes up this timeline, so I don't bother with that. It is what it is, but this is a 32-minute one, and we know it was 28 something. This is only 16 though, so oh no, it's not only 16. This is 32 as well. So I'm just gonna flip through them. They just need to be as long or longer than the actual clip. It's not really worth making them shorter, because you'll see how this is used. We don't directly export these timelines. This is the date timeline. This is that cool animation at the start here that I have. So I just need to update the date on this one. It's just a text box there. And then we aren't one up today. We are cryptogram. So I close the one up timeline. I go in here and I find my cryptogram timeline. And again, this is where I would make the timeline if I needed it. I'm seeing this is 18 minutes long, so I do need to extend this out. And now it's 26. So, and I just double checked that this looks okay for the bonus game. So cryptogram does look good. So now we go to the main timeline here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete everything except the first clip. And the first clip is actually pretty small at the start here. And then additionally, the bonus game is not one up. So I'm going to hold Alt here. I'm going to get rid of one up. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to bring in the cryptogram timeline, which is going to be the exact correct length. So now all I have to do is take this grouping here of all these other timelines. So you can see I've created a track for every timeline. And I've linked them together so that they stay synchronized. And then I'm going to clamp this to how long the cryptogram timeline was. So now because these can go longer, but they're now clamped to the cryptogram one. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to Alt select the cryptogram one. I'm going to Control select so that I have all these together. I'm going to link them. Then I'm going to Alt select this and I'm going to disable with D. D is the hotkey to disable a track. So I'm going to disable the cryptogram timeline. So the only enabled one is Wordle. And then I do have this date here, and we already updated the date. Now I may accidentally, I always want to double check. I have another date over here. That's when I made the thumbnail yesterday. Make sure that gets deleted. And then here our ending, we need to just line that up somewhere around the end. We'll fix that when we get there. So now here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just clip out, fix the intro, right? So hello, let's play a bunch of daily word games. Today's bonus game is a cryptogram. And we don't need the TikTok part of the intro, so we go straight to here. Oh, so one thing that'll happen is you'll have something selected. Like let's say this is selected and I want to use Q. It's not going to work because I have this selected. It only wants to affect the selected track. Control-Shift-A deselects all. So you don't have to move your hand much. Just Control-Shift-A to deselect all, and then you can use Q. And yes, I did want to delete all of that because now we do cryptogram. So I'm going to start with crypt. There you go. So I started with crypt. So now my goal here is to find where each game ends. So I'm just going to be like basically clicking around. Unfortunately, as you can see, the thumbnails don't line up very well. Like according to this thumbnail, we should be ending here, but we're well into Fibble by now. So it gives you a basic idea, but you kind of just have to fish it out. A musky leech, but it's leech with EA, which is the verb, right? All right. Well, let's continue to. So again, everything to the left of my cursor is Dordle. Everything to the right of my cursor is Fibble. So here's where I'm going to make my cut with W. And then I'm going to go here. I'm going to alt click on this Dordle here. I'm going to disable it, and I'm going to alt click on Fibble. I'm going to enable it. So now it's going to switch between the Dordle timeline and the Fibble timeline right here. Well, let's continue to Fibble. And it's perfect, right? The other thing I do is I have a Fibble label already here. Here's where I do need snapping on. Unfortunately, the drag snapping doesn't work correctly for labels. It's more that it's not temporary while you're dragging them. So I just line up the Fibble label here. This label, you can add label. It's a marker, actually. You can add labels by pressing M, or markers by pressing M. And if you press M again, it immediately edits it. So that's convenient. But I already have markers for all the games. And so I just need to move them to where the game starts. And these markers are used to generate the YouTube timestamps. It's very convenient. I like to give a little bit of space after I read the quote, just to let it absorb. And then... Well, those are the games for today. Hope you enjoyed them. If you did, then why not leave a like, subscribe, and a kind comment below. Perfect. All right. So this is now done. We have to export it. Now this doesn't export as AV1, so it doesn't take as long. So here I'm using, I'm trying to save as much disk space as I can. See, and so I've been fiddling with the bitrate. Here I'm using 8 megabits per second in H.264 for this one. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it makes a big difference. I mean, it's going to be 20% smaller, obviously, but I wish I could just have a second Davinci open and start on the next project while the previous one exports, but I cannot do that. But that would be very nice. So let's just get ready to upload this for when it's done. All right, it has finished. We start uploaded as soon as possible. And I have definitely had mistakes, and I just re-upload it if I have mistakes. So, but if I don't have mistakes, then I get a nice head start here. So I'm just going to make sure just to scrub through and make sure it sounds good. Hello, let's play a bunch of daily word games. Today's bonus game is a cryptogram. So I'm going to start with crypt. So I always make sure I check the intro. And I always make sure I have a scrub through that catches every game. Just to make sure I am using the correct layout on each game. Here's symbol, here's fusel. And then at the end of fusel, I need to make sure I actually stripped the outro. Now, I know that I did, but having the habit of double checking means that you don't accidentally release something with something weird in it. Oh, ozone. Hard. Oof. All right, let's decrypt this cryptogram. That's fine. We do the cryptogram, and then we should have the outro. Contemplation and enthusiasm, ambition and strong coffee. I could have looked at him forever. E. Lockhart. Well, those are the games for today. Hope you enjoyed them. If you did, then why not leave a like, subscribe, and a kind comment below. All right. So we are good on that one. Reuse the previous days. Yeah. Change one up to say cryptogram. Change the date. Okay, so now we need two things. We need the timestamps and we need the thumbnail. We don't have either of those yet. So let me tell you my trick here. So I have all the markers where the timestamps are supposed to be. So if I go to timeline 1, which is this timeline, I right click it, go to timelines, I can go export and then timeline markers to EDL. Now you may be trying to tell me right now, hey, there's an export option to export to YouTube and include timestamps. You can only do that if you let it upload to YouTube for you, and I'm never going to do that. I want to upload it myself and reuse details and all that stuff. So I export timeline markers to EDL. I can just change this folder to the current folder, save that. And so now I have it in EDL format, which isn't all that useful, but I wrote a Python script. I call it EDL. I just run it. It finds any EDLs in the current directory, and it converts them to YouTube timestamps. So I just copy that. Don't need that open. And we go in here, and we can just paste it in there, and now we have our timestamps. Now I need the thumbnail. So I like my thumbnail to show the bonus game, but I also liked it to show the date. So I go to the beginning of our bonus game here, and I need to find a thumbnail face. Sometimes I succeed, sometimes I don't. Decrypt this cryptogram. This is a quote. This could be one. I don't like it a lot. By E. Lockhart. We have this one's pretty good. I kind of like this lean forward. If I can get myself with eyes open. That's not bad. I've chosen one like that before. Let's just use that one today. So now I just drag, so the date is in a separate timeline, which is nice. So I can just drag it in again, catch it near the end of the date here, and then I can just transform it and move it up here so I don't cover the puzzle. I want to entice someone to be like, ooh, I want to see how he solves that cryptogram, right? I don't know if it works, but I do my best within my confines of what I'm willing to work on here. So we're gonna save this to the Daily Games. And every once in a while I should actually sort July into its own folder. I should have done that a while ago. I just haven't yet. I make a folder, like this is the folder for June. Once I make the folder for July, I'm gonna delete the folder for June. I don't keep everything. Infinite hard drive space is not something I have. So Daily Games, we're gonna save this as the thumbnail. So now I have my beautiful thumbnail here. There it is. Yay. Again, I have given up on any form of perfectionism for thumbnails. Which I know thumbnails are important, but I just can't be bothered. So now this is a video, the first one actually, that is members only right away and then released to the public at noon. So I need to wait for all the processing to finish because I don't want my members to be watching a crappy video. But luckily, while I was working all that, it actually finished processing. I have no idea why sometimes it's fast, sometimes it's slow. I think it depends on what server you get to process the video. But this is a really nice feature YouTube added. And I only started doing this when YouTube added the feature, but from members only to public. So instead of private to public, it's members only to public. And all channel members get it right away as soon as I hit schedule. But then on August 10th at 12 p.m., it becomes public to everybody. So when I hit schedule here, now any of my members can just watch this right away as soon as I'm done with it. So it's 1:20 a.m. my time on August 10th, and already the Daily Word Games is available to anyone who'd like to watch it who's a member. Memberships are as low as $5 a month. All right. Cool. So that was the Daily Games video for YouTube. Now we're going to do the one for TikTok. And actually TikTok is two of them because the bonus game is a separate video. And I'll do that one first. So I have a bonus game timeline already ready for cryptogram. I just double click that. Let's just get rid of one up so we don't get confused. We do need to, oh, sorry. I first need to replace the clip. Sometimes I forget to do that. That's bad because that's yesterday's video. Raw, there we go. So now in here, we just extend the cryptogram timeline all the way to the end. I have my title card here, decoding cryptogram. I can just reuse that. So now we just find where cryptogram starts. Usually there's a pause. Here it is, see? Oof, all right. Well, those are the games for... Here's the pause, okay. So, just Q. Boop. Let's decrypt this cryptogram. And I know that you might not have it mapped to Q, but that's what I have it mapped to. This is a quote by E. Lockhart. We have... Okay, that all looks fine. My audio should be at 9 dB. Yep, it is. Okay, so this will export, and I don't want my outro, my YouTube outro. Well, those are the games. I just want to end here. E. Lockhart. Give that a little bit of time. I like to have a little time sink in after that quote. So now here's where my habit always gets me. I scroll to the bottom, I hit edit, but this is timeline 1. And if I hit edit on this, it would be the 1-up timeline. I can't do that. I need to just trust the default settings over here that the project saved them. And then I just update this to 10. copy this in here and then change this to say cryptogram TikTok. And I have to export that. So unfortunately I habitually just do that, and then it switches the timeline export. And sometimes I don't even notice that I'm exporting the wrong timeline until I then review the video and it's wrong. So here now we're going to prep to upload it. So I need to find a previous cryptogram. Here's one. Code this cryptogram. And I'm going to copy this. And then here, we just go to upload. Drag that in. We'll double check it's good. Let's decrypt this cryptogram. This is a quote by E. Lockhart. Ambition and strong coffee. I could have looked at him forever. E. Lockhart. Let's decrypt. Okay, that seems good. So the quote is, and I can just zoom this in here. By E. Lockhart. And we just have to convert our hashtags again. This is not Henry James, so we're going to do E. Lockhart. 3.4K. Sometimes the author has just a couple hashtags, and sometimes they got a bunch. This link is always the same. Unfortunately, I can't link directly to the cryptogram I actually solved because it just picks a random one when you load the site. So I wish that I could provide that, so you can try it yourself first. All right. Now we just schedule this one. The bonus game comes out at 9 a.m. on TikTok. So TikTok does get the daily games earlier than YouTube. I release most things at noon, but I've decided to kind of filter, because it's 3 videos a day, I've decided to do 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11 a.m., to kind of sandwich the Adoptle with the bonus game, then Adoptle, then the full daily games. And that way people can be done watching the full daily games before all the New York Times ones all release at once. Anyway, I don't know. So if you want to watch the daily games earlier, a little bit earlier, and you don't want a membership on YouTube, then I guess you could watch them on TikTok. All right. Anyway, let's schedule that. All right, so that's the bonus game. We stay in this project, and then we just need to make sure that these are long enough. Yeah, they are. So all of these here, and then we just go to this timeline, and it's going to feel very, very similar to what we just did. But it's a vertical layout this time. So I got to delete all of this stuff. Let's zoom in, delete this here. But there's no bonus game, so I don't even have to go and change that. I just need to re-expand this all. And then we fix the intro. Oh, we fixed the title card too. August 10th. Fix the intro. Hello, let's play a bunch of daily word games. Today's bonus game is a cryptogram. And as usual, that is this one. So I'm going to start with... All right, so that has the TikTok intro in it. Now, I have these timestamps. The unfortunate thing is that because the intro is longer on the TikTok, these timestamps aren't quite right. But I can still put them on my other monitor and just kind of like reference about where I need to click on the timeline. It does save me a little bit of time, but not much. So that is daily games. And daily games is completely done. I can forget it and just focus on the rest. And actually, that is a big chunk of my time. The Adoptle and the daily games, especially if we include recording them, bookkeeping for them, editing them, publishing them, that is a big chunk of time, which is why I've considered dropping it several times. I really enjoy doing it, so I've kept it. But if I dropped daily games and I dropped Adoptle, which I'm not saying I'm going to do, I could easily have this block of time be an hour and a half shorter, and also it significantly removes the potential for times where I'm taking breaks while things export and things like that. But anyway, it's staying for now. I think doing something like just picking a game or two to do instead of All those games would save me huge amounts of time. And it's why it's the first thing to get dropped if I'm low on time. Anyway, the next thing to do is connections. So here's where I actually do go through and I do all of the editing for time first. So we're going to do connections, mini, strands, and Wordle, and we're going to edit only the raws for them. And here is where each of these has kind of its own unique project specifics. So this is connection. So I have two timelines. I've got my main timeline and I've got my uncut with timer. This is how I add the timer. So I'm going to get rid of the yesterday's connections here. I can just delete it from this timeline because this isn't layouted, right? So I can just replace it. Connections took a lot less time today. So I'm going to take these and I'm going to put them roughly in the right place, but they don't have to be perfect. Here we're gonna trim the beginning. Okay, so now I need to find where I finish my intro. Let's do connections. We're finding 4 groups of 4. So right about here, this is where I want my timer to start. Now I need to make sure I don't lengthen it. I actually drag it here because this is a very special text node that I've set up to be the current time code just by right clicking and adding it as a time code. And so this is what is doing the timer. It's the time code which I've configured. There's tutorials on YouTube on how to do these time codes and configure them, but I've configured this to do my timer. So now all I need to do is I sometimes earlier on was making the mistake of editing in here. That I'm not supposed to edit in here because this is supposed to be counting real time. So we just find where the pop-up happens. Biopics. So this is exactly where I set the timer. Remember, to the left of my cursor is game board. To the right of my cursor is when it's starting to pop up, the pop-up. So here I do drag this to be shorter. And now I go left one and I see that it was 3:32 when the timer stopped. So now this text node here is not a time code. I just set it to say 3:32. And now I find where the board comes back. So I've just been doing it here. I know it doesn't look right here, but I'm really annoyed that it scrolls to the bottom automatically after the pop-up now. I don't know why it does that. But I do fix the scrolling here, and often I cut out the part where I fix the scrolling. So I just want the timer to be there. I just don't want the timer to be up while the pop-up's up. That's all. And I want it to be the new non-time code one that doesn't increase. So that's how the timer works. And so now here, what I do is I just remove all this and I bring in the uncut with timer timeline. And then now here, this is what I cut for time. And I'm mostly, again, just removing thinking time, ums, uhs, that sort of thing. And I too tend to just watch these through. All right, edited connections. Usually these are short enough that I like to just watch through it at 2x, make the edits in one pass, and then I'm done. For daily games, specifically, I do a much rougher edit because it's so long. I don't want to watch it all through. I do end up watching a lot of it through anyway, but if I'm really short on time, I'll literally just pick a zoom level and any blank spot, I just double check that it's okay to clip out, and usually I just end up clipping that out, and then I just leave the rest of the pauses in. So it depends on how much time I've got. Okay, so the raw export, edit and export is done for connections, but I don't go and do the rest of connections. Instead, I just move on. I'm in the mindset of cutting for time, so I just move on to the New York Times, the mini crossword raw. This doesn't have anything special about it. And oftentimes, I end up, today was a Saturday, so I might end up doing some cutting. But oftentimes for the mini, I just trim the beginning and end and I'm done. I just export that again. But I like to always have a raw export of it so that when I go to do the layouting, it's consistently called raw. But yeah, I'm gonna watch this through. I just noticed the Aaron Brockovich one was Cameo. Now I understand that. I think I got everything else. All right. Well, how'd you do? I'm sure the comments will tell me about that one. I think I said this earlier, but I do see a lot when I edit, but I don't mind that people comment it too. I like when people interact, as long as they're kind about it. All right, so that mini is exported. Again, we aren't publishing anything with that yet. We're just editing for time. So now I can just immediately move on to Strands. I'm still in the mindset of editing for time. And this one is similar to the connections one, but it's got a little bit more to it, mostly because of my own vanity. So we've got our strands for today. So again, we do have our timer, which people really requested. I have timers. Let's do strands for August 10th. Today's theme is not just for poking. So that intro was about correct, so I don't mind just leaving that timer as is. We do need to move this out. So I need to find where it says spangram. So it's not that hard to find because you just wait for the orange to appear. So here's where it starts saying spangram. I grab this, make it say spanogram, and I find where it ends. So again, everything to my left says spangram, everything to my right does not. So I want to line this up here, and now I don't have a single frame that says spangram. They all say spanogram. But I don't have extra frames saying spanogram either. So it looks super clean. Like if I disable this, you can see it's as if it always just said spanogram. Really good use of gaslighting there. I've thought about writing a user script for connections that actually just changes the text when it comes up, but I haven't bothered with that. I don't know if it'll work. And this does work, so... So we're looking for the pop-up. And here, this is where our timer ends. It is 10:29. Wow, this took me a while. So this is going to be an annoying edit for sure, but this is supposed to line up here. Yeah, it does. And then, all right. This is where I make the timer come back. So you can kind of see it real time. All right. It's hardly noticeable that there's like a faded frame without the timer on it, and it's realistic enough to the point where I get comments asking how I enabled the timer because they don't have a timer, and also spanogram comments, which are fun. All right, so I'm gonna have to. I think most of this is just going to be getting rid of these big pauses here, but I am going to watch through it. It'll only take 5 minutes to watch through at 2x, so, and actually less because when I cut out the long pauses, I don't have to watch them. Alright, so once Strands is done exporting, we just need to edit Wordle for time, and then all the editing for time is done. And then the next step is just the YouTube videos and the TikTok videos with different layouting for both of those, but because there's no editing involved, it goes pretty quickly. So now everything's edited for time. So now I can switch mode and just say, okay, now I'm layouting and publishing. So I just go one video at a time. I like to do the YouTube ones first, just so that the members have them as early as possible. I do really appreciate all my members who are paying for content, so I try to get them their videos out as soon as I can, reasonably do so, without significantly affecting my workflow. So we do both the remaining YouTube videos next. So starting with the New York Times game video. So on YouTube, it's all three. It's the connections, the mini, and the strands combined all into one. So you probably understand by now what I'm doing here. So I do have a date. So this is my little intro date animation here. All right, just make sure the date's correct. Now here I do need to adjust the times on all these. So the mini, strands, and connections are sorry, I have to replace them first. Whoops. So I have to replace each of these individually, right? So I have the connections for the 10th, which I replaced with raw, and I also have to remember to replace the logo, which if I forget to replace the logo, then we end up with the wrong date there. And it has happened several times. But we got the mini doesn't have a logo, strands, and you didn't see me grab those logos unless you somehow caught that while I was recording, but I do grab these logos while I record the connections and strands logos. So just screenshots from the games. Okay, so now I can make these correct length. So unfortunately, the audio doesn't match up here because it's still using, when I first loaded up the project, when I first loaded up this timeline, it was the previous one, and replacing the clip sometimes doesn't update the audio. The way I get it to do it is to remove the clip from the clip pool. So this is now unlinked, and then I undo, and then it recalculates the audio. But make sure you're on the timeline that you need the audio to update on. Here it's not an issue because I haven't loaded up these timelines until after I did the replacement. Now on this timeline here, you can see all the audio should be correct. So here, I don't actually have to worry about the beginning because it all just kind of works itself out. But here, connections was shorter yesterday. So this is where the trim edit mode T cursor is useful. So what I can do is I can actually drag the edge of this and it'll ripple push forward everything else. So here the audio is not correct, unfortunately. So let's go to the connections timeline, make sure its audio will load it up. Okay, so we'll fix that here. So connections remove, undo. There's our audio. Is it going to be correct here now? There we go. Okay, so now this is the end of the timeline. This is the really unfortunate thing, is you just get black instead of it like clamping to the end of the timeline. So here to my right is black, to my left is connections, so I just cut there, and then I use my E to ripple delete. Now here, the mini, I found the best way to do this, kind of silly, like you could just delete these, but if I just drag that over, it kind of just kills them, and then I can drag this over and clamp it, it'll kill that. But I need to, I made this bigger first, right? And then I can just remove this one and clamp that here, and then I can use the trim mode cursor. Actually, just zoom out more. There we go. Make that about the correct length. Now from the mini, I do have different layouts because you can see this looks terrible, right? With the pop-up there. So here's where the puzzle starts. I clip that and we use the pop-up layout instead. And that looks great. And so now I have to find wherever the pop-ups happen. So if I keep getting letters wrong and it keeps popping up stuff, that makes it annoying in the edit, and sometimes I miss them. But I always get the final one at least. Here. Okay, 322. Honestly, so for some reason, the very final one is actually looks different than the normal pop-ups, and so I have to use a different layout for that one as well. So that's why I have 3 layouts. The rest of this is fine. I just need to trim the end. How'd you do? That's good enough. Now Strands does have a pop-up, but there's nothing interesting on it, so at least for the YouTube version, I just haven't bothered. Like, it looks like this. It's awful, but I just haven't bothered making a layout for it, so I just leave it be. Oh, how'd you do? Now this one is the only YouTube video that doesn't end with the like, subscribe call out. And so I just do how'd you do. Why doesn't it end with call out? Because I don't feel like dealing with the, I don't know. Like, I could have 2 different outros, right? I could have an outro for TikTok and an outro for YouTube, like I do for a lot of other ones, but for some reason I just don't remember to do it on Strands. So it's not a big deal. I don't think a call out at the end of the video actually works very well, because the only people who watched at the end are already liking and subscribing and commenting. But anyway. I should be doing it mid-video, but that's also annoying, and I don't remember to. I'm thinking about other things. So this is a YouTube video, like literally already. Okay, I forgot about this. This connections needs to get pushed up. So I'm actually going to hit stop here, and I can actually show you this, that all I have to do is go into my connections timeline and then find which one is the connections logo. There it is. And I just have to push it up a little bit. Oop, that's the wrong one. Oh, it's literally the image at the top. Sorry. Just push this up a little bit. I think that's fine. That's better than it was. And so now it'll just be correct in the connections one, right? So I could just clear this render status and render it again, because I hit stop in the middle of it. If you see little layouting problems like that in a video, feel free to let me know in a comment, and I'll fix it for the next day. Now that you know what you're looking for. As long as you're kind about it, I don't mind things like that. I guess I should qualify, I'll fix it for the next day if I remember. All right, so we do need to prep some things here. So I actually have something I can do while waiting, which is create the thumbnail for this. This is the only thing I use Photoshop for. I found that for whatever reason, doing this in Photoshop was a little bit easier than GIMP in terms of the transparency on me here. My plan was always to have a bunch of different photos of myself in all my different shirts, and choose myself to choose a different picture of myself every day. But then I got instantly lazy and only took the one picture, only prepped the one picture, and I've just been reusing it every single day. But at some point I might do that. Not today though. So literally all I have to do is just change the date and re-export it. But that kills enough time that we actually are done exporting now. So I can upload this to YouTube. This is New York Times Games. Okay. Upload that to YouTube. Reuse the details from the last one. Okay, so this has a couple things. First of all, always turn monetization on first. Give it the maximum time, because we do want to publish this to members, so I want it to have as much processing time as possible while I work on this stuff. So here's timestamps. I don't bother using markers because there's only ever 2 timestamps to update, the mini crossword and strands. It's not worth going through all that, because I can just hover this. I do have the markers, by the way, and they ripple. Like, I didn't have to touch them, right? They ripple with the changes to the mini and the strands and the connections. So I just hover over it, and this says 4:48:05. YouTube rounds up, so 4:49 for the mini crossword, and then 8:33 for the strands. There we go. Do that for the thumbnail. And that does it. So now we just put this on members only, 10th at noon. And our video processing is complete, so I can just schedule this. The checking, I don't have any copyright violations, and it's never gotten false positives for me. So I'm brave enough to just schedule before it's done checking that. But I really should be waiting for it to finish the copyright checks. All right, so that's one video down. Now we do Wordle. Wordle's got some special stuff to it, which you probably know if you've watched my Wordle videos. So we got to replace the the footage, but we also have to replace the comment. Remember, I gathered the comment earlier, and we need to replace the theme. I gathered that also. And so now we go in here, and I do make these timelines the correct size, all of these. Oops. This is annoying. Sometimes it does that. I don't know why. I just have to keep trying until it works. Okay, so here's where I'm going to just delete everything but the first clip, as I did in the daily games. Make this the right size. Move the, this is the end, this is the outro. Move that kind of near the end, just so I remember to do it. But I don't line it up perfectly yet. I'd like to do the edit beginning to end, and by the time I get to the end of the timeline, that means I can export. It's really good to do that way for me. So here's where I got to line up. So first I'm going to jiggle the theme, and I'm going to jiggle the comment because they have animations on them. And then I'll line them up to basically match what I'm talking about. Hello, let's do Wordle number 1148 for Saturday, August 10th. And I asked for 2 starting words related to a... So here's where I start saying Game of Thrones. So I want the fade in to finish when I say Game of Thrones. Starting words related to a game of... So here I gotta fix where this is on screen. That should work. Thrones theme and page. So here's where I say page. So I want to drag this until page is just popping up. Why is this? Oh, there, just like that. Thrones theme and page. So this is too big. So this is using the magic animate. So I have to change the scale and center and size and all that. I guess I just said scale twice. I have to change these in the animation tab for it. You can't use the transform if you're using magic animate. Related to a Game of Thrones theme and page. So that actually page started on screen. So I need to adjust the animation here, the whip, to be probably -1.3, or I can just drag this. Is this not? Oh, this is the end. There we go. Just off screen. So I'll do -1.4. And then just back to -1.4 for the whip. So, and page suggested hound for... So here, this suggests I want the fade out to happen right before I start typing. And page suggested hound for the hound. And now I just have to make these end at the right time. Character and start for all the way starts. Ooh, we just... So if I keep talking about the theme, I keep these up. If I start talking about the letters and the results, I make them go away. Ooh. So that's about where I do that. Ooh, we just get a D. There we go. And now we just have to find the layout part. So the first thing I need to look for is when the stat screen comes up. And then finally, we need to get in some way. We use the YouTube outro, which is the first outro I record. And of course, if you enjoyed this, why not leave a like, subscribe, and a kind comment below. And below is where I do this. Below. And then if I had left this in, you'd hear the TikTok outro as well. And of course, how'd you do? Which would be a bit weird. So I sometimes I consider leaving it in just to see if anyone notices that. Like, oh, that's kind of nice. He asked how I did in the middle of the outro video. But, yeah. Cool. So I got beginning to end. I can just trust that this is ready to go. Right? The more often you're just watching your own video, the longer that the whole thing's going to take. And remember, we're trying to produce 14 videos a day. So almost done with them, actually. So here's where I can at least start prepping a little bit. I can't prep much, but I can go to this tab and I can go to upload videos and I can wait here. So I'm going to start uploading the video as soon as I can. Again, I want to give YouTube as much time to process before I get to the point where I want to publish it to members. So I'm just going to immediately drag it in, if I can find it, and immediately turn on monetization. That's the most important thing to do as early as possible. And then I'm going to watch it to make sure everything looks good. Hello, let's do Wordle number Saturday, August 10th. And as for 2 starting words related to a Game of Thrones. Hello, let's do Wordle number 1148 for Saturday, August 10th. And as for 2 starting words related to a Game of Thrones theme. And Paige suggested Hound for the Hound character, and Stark for all the various Starks. Ooh, we just get a D. That's interesting. So no A, O, or U. I feel like D is probably at the start, but we can't do DR, so we're gonna go straight to a vowel probably. So here's where I'm just gonna scrub. Make sure I get my pop-up here. Yep, I do. Make sure we have the WordleBot timeline looking correct. Make sure we have the wheel looking correct. Make sure we have our outro correct. Hello. Yep. And there we go. So already uploaded. We just reuse details here. And what I need is a thumbnail. So first of all, I update the number and the date. I used to try to come up with a clever title every day based on the theme, but I feel like that was just more confusing than helpful. So I would just say I'm solving Wordle. I don't know. I don't know how to get more views. I'm trying. I'm not trying hard enough probably, but this is a lot of work. So here's why the most important thing is to have the thumbnail face I want. Oh, let's do Wordle number 11. So I like this where, you know, I'm referencing the date, but in my notes, but I happen to be looking the correct direction there. And so then let's see. For Saturday, August 10th. That's kind of a neat face, actually. It's like, oh god, I'm in Game of Thrones. So here I can just drag this over here, and sometimes I'll also change its size. This seems okay though, like it's taking up the full vertical. So now we just export this as our thumbnail. All right. I don't purposely make thumbnail faces. I used to just like stop and just like make some faces that I'd cut out. I just stopped doing that. So here's our thumbnail. And that's all I need. There's no timestamps or anything. I probably should start timestamping where the solve happens and where the bot is and all that, but I don't. So now we do members only, 10th at noon. And our video processing is complete, which is very nice. All right, so we can just publish that to members. So now members have everything. Everything that's early access is released now, 2:20 a.m. So now we do the TikToks. So these actually go pretty quick. So connections, I have a connections TikTok project. And this one, connections, luckily, is very kind layout wise. I don't actually have to, like the pop-up is actually perfectly fine. This pop-up looks fine, as is. Good enough, at least. So all I have to do is just make sure I've replaced the date at the top. Oh, so I accidentally replaced the date at the top with my raw footage, which is silly. I don't know how that happened, but okay, now I've got, okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna undo all that. All right. That was silly. Okay, now I have the correct date up there. But because it's now the 10th, we went from the 9th to the 10th, the centering's not right, so I gotta fix these. So what I do is I just change the crop to be as close as possibly cropped to the beginning and end there. And then I have this image that's just a straight line, vertical straight line, right centered here. So all I have to do here for this one is drag it so that it's this center dot here is about centered on my line. That way it looks centered. And then now I have to fix this one as well. So we just go until we're like at the right of that S there. And then we move this also. There. Now, of course, I have to hide that. And now we've got the perfectly centered connections logo again. And that's all I have to do. I do, like the raw is already kind of trimmed. Beginning and end is already trimmed. So I don't really worry about trimming it further. And I just export. So connections is, if I don't have to fix the title, connections is the fastest one to do for TikTok. After, you know, of course, after it's been already edited for time. last thing is Wordle. We do the Wordle TikTok, and it's going to be almost identical to the Wordle edit for YouTube. Just something, yeah, I mean, I wish I could like line up where the cuts are because they're the same, but honestly it doesn't take that long, and I'm not sure how I would reuse those cuts. It doesn't seem like it's possible. There might be still gaps in my knowledge on how to use Davinci. I'm certainly not a professional Davinci user. I just figured out what works for what I need to do, and I do the same thing every day. All right, so I've replaced all of those. I used the vertical version of the theme images. It was a long time ago, but if you remember, I have those already, and they work a lot better in this vertical layouting compared to trying to use the images raw. I was having a lot of issues trying to use the images raw on the vertical for some reason, especially when they animate. They did not animate properly. So change this to August 10th. The timing here is a little bit different, especially for this text node. I need it to line up with the theme because it needs to go away and make room for the theme. Hello, let's do Wordle number 1148 for Saturday, August 10th. And I asked for 2 starting words related to a game of... So here's where I talk about Game of Thrones. We want this appearing basically as I say it. Words related to a Game of Thrones theme and page. That's pretty good. I say page right as it appears. Page, but I think I want page already there. And page suggested hound. So here's an issue. I need the top 2 of the top 2 guesses. You can tell I'm getting tired. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move this down. I also need to move page down a little bit. Maybe I'll change the size to be a bit smaller. But then this needs to move down as well. Yeah, I'm gonna do this before page comes up. So I think I just make this smaller. Bring that there. That looks pretty good. And then now page can also be a bit smaller. Actually, I don't mind that too much. That's pretty good. Words related to a Game of Thrones theme, and page suggested hound for the hound character, and Stark for all the various Starks. Ooh, and all I did there was I just kind of eyeballed lining up the end of that with where this sound starts. Ooh, so that's good. Well, that is it. I am done for the night. So that's what I do every day. Some days I also do the big crossword, and so we have that added extra. The process is extremely similar to the mini crossword because it's essentially the same thing. But I do have separate projects for it because it does lay out a little bit differently. And other than that, yeah, I don't think there's much more to say. Thank you for watching all of this. I hope this behind the scenes was interesting to you. Maybe useful if you are also a content creator. I have done a lot of work in trying my best to streamline my workflow. So obviously my workflow is pretty unique because if you look for videos about like streamlining YouTube workflow, they're not talking about doing word games. So I have a lot of very unique requirements, and so I've really like watched a lot of tutorials, read up on stuff, but also just experimented myself and just put a lot of thought into it over the years on how to get through this as quickly as possible. And whenever I became more efficient by a significant amount, I was able to add more videos. And so at this point, I think I make probably too many videos every day. Most people can't watch all of my content every day. So I kind of split my audience, but I do enjoy doing it. And I honestly don't know like what I would cut. Like I think I said earlier, if something did get cut first, it would probably be the daily word games video, just because that is a huge chunk of the time that I spend because of its complications and its length. But at the same time, like, I feel like that's kind of a core piece of content to my channel. So I don't know. Happy to have any thoughts about which parts you enjoyed, which parts were illuminating for you. If you have any interesting ideas for how I might improve things, really anything. Happy to have any feedback. And yeah, let me know if you have questions as well. And if you enjoyed this, why not leave a like, subscribe, and a kind comment below.